Hello, welcome to Star Trek Adventures Initiative. I'm here tonight with some awesome people to get them onto their first mission. Let's go say hello to everyone really quickly. We have our wonderful ship's counselor, Trish and Odie, or Darby. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. I'm doing very, very good. Very excited. Yeah, just pumped to get started.
And as well, we have, who I'm sure is excited to get started, our Cardassian member of the crew, Siltech Knoll. Aram, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. Moving on, we have, I hope I'm saying your character's name right, but Illyria Farron. How are you doing, Jordan?
I'm great, and you did it! I'm so excited.
Yeah, character names. And moving on over, we're welcoming this week. I'm so glad to have you. I know you weren't here for creation, but I'm super looking forward to your character. We have Ro Alana. We have Raven. How are you doing?
Hi, doing pretty good. Happy to be here.
And last but not least, we have our ship's doctor, Malco Sorzan, or Max. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing very well, and I'm super excited to get going tonight.
Awesome. I'm excited too. So don't forget, friends, as you're watching the stream, you can interact. There is at the bottom down there, you can see the tips menu to tip the cast. You can grant them things like critical successes, critical failures, banes and boons, big crits, twists of fate, or even ultimate power if you want, where we'll figure something out really cool so you can get involved in making the crew's lives more difficult or easier, depending on what it is that you want. Don't forget to hit the retweet on the status that's up in chat for Twitter so that we can get those wild magic surges. And if you see anything fun and interesting, something funny, something great while you're watching the stream, don't forget to clip it and let us know. Put it in, put it up. We love seeing those. We love watching those back. So don't forget to do that too. You can also catch up with all of the shows here on Encounter Roleplay over on YouTube. So if you didn't see Character Creation and you want to, you can go back and check that out. Or if you missed some of the premieres last week, you can go and have a look at them on the Encounter Roleplay YouTube. And hi to anybody who is watching this on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Big shout out to all of the sponsors. Obviously, Modiphius Entertainment are sponsoring this. This is their game. So it should be really cool. And speaking of sponsors, there is somebody who can tell you even better than I can about them, and that is Past Charlie. So let's go speak to her and see all the awesome people that are supporting Encounter Roleplay and this stream tonight.
Before we begin today's show, I would like to take some time to remind you about our sponsors. Fantasy Grounds, our virtual tabletop of choice. All of the beautiful maps and roles you see tonight are done using Fantasy Grounds, which you can try for free at fantasygrounds.com. You can also get all of your miniatures from Wayland Games. Go to waylandgames.co.uk and get yourself a huge range of D&D, Warhammer and 40k minis for up to 20% off regular retail price. And Tabletop Loot, who sell incredible dice. Go and check them out at tabletoploot.com.
Thank you, Past Charlie, for telling us about all of our wonderful sponsors here tonight. One more thing, we're going to be having a poll coming up that's going to be in chat that you can vote on that might have some influence on the characters here in the game and what goes on. So make sure you vote on that. Keep an eye on chat for it. And I've been told that we already have a wild magic surge. We've already hit 20 retweets on that going live status. So let me see. Who is going to roll this? Jordan, do you want to go ahead and roll me a D10,000, please?
Oh my goodness, how do I roll that? Do I Google it? Or can I
no,
do
so
it
if you type in /die 1D10,000 into Fantasy Grounds and go ahead and hit enter, we can see what that is. There was one from last week, which was the target's blood is flammable. So there's that, and wonderful people in chat have now given us another one.
Let's try this. Do I have to use the brackets? Is that what it is?
No, so it should just be /die. I think it's up in the chat here if you want to just copy paste it.
Okay, that sounds like a wonderful thing. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Thank you. Okay. Slowly but surely we're gonna get this rolled. Oh, I cannot paste. I do not know why though.
Oh,
I probably
would
can. George,
would you like me to roll
yeah,
it?
can you do it? Yes, please.
1d10. Okay, /die 1d. Need to make sure I put enough zeros on this. There we go. So we've rolled 706. So we'll get that looked up and see what it is. But otherwise, I think while we do that, we can perhaps listen to the captain's log for today. Oh. I can read the captain's log if...
Yeah, do it live.
Captain's log, stardate 47253.6. We are responding to a distress call from a Vulcan Expeditionary Group on tracks Exelon 1. We lost the signal 1 day ago, but we are still en route. The distress call read, "We require immediate assistance. Atmospheric conditions have proven too hazardous to the expedition to continue. One team is lost. Their coordinates are enclosed. 2 members of the expedition remain here at Base Camp Tavral. We request the nearest Starfleet vessel make contact and extract us." And the message repeats. And this is the reason that all of you find yourself called to the captain's ready room in your Nova class vessel. I've also just been told the wild magic surge is the caster continues to age normally but can't die of old age. So that will be interesting. But you find yourself in the captain's ready room. You know Vulcan reasonably well now. This entire crew has kind of been... You've been together for about 3 months on this ship. Some of you know each other and the other crew. Some of you have worked together before. But you've mostly been doing supply runs, small diplomatic treaties, moving people from starbase to starbase. This is probably one of the first times you've really been called in for what you know to be an incident that has taken place. Vulcan comes in. She's a tall woman with very short cropped hair. And she doesn't sit, she elects to stand. Whether or not you do so as well is up to you. And she has a very solemn look on her face. We received a distress call from a Vulcan Expeditionary Group. We're not sure entirely what's happened on the planet itself, but just that atmospheric conditions changed rapidly, and 2 members of the expedition are presumably still at base camp. The other team has been lost. The signal has stopped, which could be a good sign. However, it is our orders that we go and investigate and ensure that anybody on the planet is brought to safety. Obviously, this is of paramount importance to the Federation and to the Vulcan Expeditionary Group. We have very limited information in what they were doing there. We do know that Trax Epsilon is in the Kelper section, and it's a H-class planet. They seem to be interested in how the planet came to be the way it is with its distance from the sun. But we are approaching, and I would like your first thoughts as we make our way there and enter standard orbit. But you will be the away team that is sent down to investigate and make contact with the expeditionary group and get them back aboard the initiative safely. Does anybody have any questions? And she's very pragmatic in her approach there. She kind of says her bit and she waits patiently, hands kind of tucked behind her back, almost in a very like military-like fashion, but very orderly and tidy.
Alana is going to have something to say about the Class H planet as soon as Raven reads very quickly what that planet class is like.
So Class H planets are marginally habitable. So they're not considered necessarily to have extreme dangerous conditions as such. But she waits to see if anybody has questions. This is a familiar thing when you've been in her briefing. She kind of says her bit and then we'll wait to ensure that everybody in the room has understood in that very logical Vulcan fashion.
I think Alana will kind of raise her hand a little bit, being the only enlisted on the person on the senior staff, probably a little bit less inclined to just speak up on her own. So she'll raise her hand. I got a question.
And
this is a class.
Vipel kind of.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So Vipel kind of snaps her head to you in that very oddly straight way and kind of nods.
Okay. So with it being a Class H planet, I'm assuming there's not a whole lot of atmospheric disturbances or anything like that. Couldn't we just teleport them off the surface?
That may be possible. We'll know more once we get within scanning range. As far as we know, the planet was marginally habitable, but they did mention in their distress call that the atmospheric conditions had rapidly changed. So whether this is a natural occurring phenomenon or something else entirely, we won't know until we get there. And at this point, there is a beep. She taps her communicator, and you can just hear she's being called to the bridge. You've approached sensor range of the planet. And she turns to look at you and says, "Well, I believe we are here. If you would like to accompany me to the bridge, your first thoughts would be much appreciated." And she kind of very quickly, very promptly turns around and leaves, expecting you to follow.
I would follow.
Okay. You go out onto the bridge, and there's nothing yet viewing on the view screen, but you are swiftly informed that you are within sensor range. And Vipel looks round, waiting for somebody to somebody to do something. And she says, "Well, can we get some information on this planet? Also, thank you so much to Hippie Killer, who has donated crits for all of you. So that gives you an automatic success."
Awesome.
Would anybody
Siltic,
here... Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
Siltic would walk up to a security council center. If there's like individual areas, he'd walk up to it and begin to scan the planet and the surrounding area for any ships or any other people to make sure, to know what we're going into.
Okay. Go ahead, make me a reason plus science tasks. You add your reason, your reason attribute to your science discipline. And this task is difficulty 1. Okay. So you're going to roll 2d20, and as long as one of them is equal to or under that number, you'll have succeeded.
Okay, so, rolling 2d20. And I have to get under 11. And I did, with one of them.
With one of them. Okay, and the other one was a 20. So 20s are complications. So it doesn't mean that you failed. You can still succeed and get a complication. It just means that perhaps something goes wrong. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to bank that, and I'm going to take some threat instead. So when I told you about momentum, which is kind of your fun meta currency to do stuff, threat is kind of mine. So I'm going to take 2 threat instead of having everything else. So you have a look at the planet, and if anyone else on the bridge is looking at information about this, you can see it's marginally habitable, arid conditions and very little surface water. That is not what your scans are showing you, Siltec. Okay. The planet that you are looking at is displaying strange but almost unseen characteristics as it now comes up on the view screen as the sensor scan finishes. The planet that you see looks to be covered in a black atmosphere. Your scans show it reflects all but 0.04% of light. You can see it's an incredible sight because just behind the planet is the big bright blue-white sun. And the planet itself, Trax Epsilon 1, appears like just a dark void in the center of your view screen. Your sensors don't detect anything else. They can't seem to penetrate this atmosphere very well. You can't pick up the outpost specifically from here, and there appears to be something wrong with the planet's magnetic field. Its poles appear to be shifting and fluctuating, causing a lot of interference.
Profits
we're not-
makers, that ain't normal.
How close does this look how similar does this look to a black hole?
Not at all like a black hole. None of your
Okay.
readings are showing that. As far as you can tell, this is the planet you are supposed to be at. But you can now see what the Expeditionary Group were talking about in their distress call when it was mentioned that atmospheric conditions had changed, because this does not appear to be normal.
Okay, then I would just throw that information up for the captain to see and take a step back and look to her to wait for a command.
And she very promptly and quite briskly walks over to your station, reviews the data for herself, looks up. She kind of places a hand on your shoulder. It's almost it's a very human thing to do, that kind of reassurance.
Right.
She knows that you're a younger, newer member on this crew. Just places her hand on your shoulder, very curtly, says, "Well done, Siltek." Well,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't believe that we are going to see anything up here. Nothing indicates that this is particularly dangerous as such yet, but I'd like all of you to transport down. It may be best if you go wearing EV suits, however, just in case the atmospheric conditions are more dangerous than they appear on the surface. She looks at all of you. Well, get suited up, make your way to the transporter room.
Yes, ma'am.
Captain, if I may make a suggestion, would it be prudent to send down a probe into the atmosphere first to see what the conditions are like below that cloud?
That sounds like a very well-reasoned idea, bro. Yes, perhaps we should do that. A probe is sent out over the next few minutes as you are getting your EV suits on, and you will get the buzz from the captain. The probe has not returned. We're not sure
Alira's
why.
eyes get huge.
As soon as I hear that, I pause. I grab a phaser rifle on the way to the transporters just to make sure.
You can have a phaser rifle. They do have an opportunity cost, however. So,
Okay.
because they are an escalation, that will actually give me some threat. So you can take one if you wish.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Okay, I will take the extra threat then.
The chief is going to be doing like extra pre-flight, like making sure absolutely everything on the shuttle is ready to go. I assume we're taking a shuttle.
You're going via transporter.
Okay. In that case, yeah, she's making sure everything's fine on her EV suit.
Especially since now you've sent the probe down and it hasn't come back up. The captain basically explains that they're not sure why. It could be atmospheric conditions preventing the return. It could be that something was misjudged in calculations, causing the probe to crash, for example, because of the atmosphere. So, not knowing that, she feels it would be safer to transport, even though there is still some risk there.
Okay.
I'm not going to make you roll to go down in the transporter, but you get in. It is not the easiest of transporting. You feel yourself kind of phase in and out a few times before finally the molecules stabilize. And you find yourself down there. Before going down, you have been given the coordinates to the outpost, which is where the captain has kind of given you the talk. That's probably your best bet. That's where the distress beacon was coming from. As soon as you get down to the planet, however, you are very grateful for these EV suits. It is almost pitch black around you. The atmosphere is absorbing a lot of light. You can barely see a meter in front of you, even with your head torches on. You also can tell, not so much from your EV suits, but that from your scanners, that the atmosphere does not have the normal chemical composition The atmosphere itself is definitely unbreathable, and the temperatures are sub-zero. It would be impossible for anybody to survive more than maybe a few minutes in this atmosphere without an EV suit.
Okay. My tricorder's out and scanning for life forms until we find something or have better vision.
Okay. Go ahead. Just make me, anyone who's scanning with their tricorders, just go ahead, make me a, this will be, let's go for control and science. Just difficulty 1.
Control and science. That's 2 fails on. Well, wait, no, sorry. 1 fail.
1 fail, so it's 120.
2 fails, sorry.
2
I started
fails. 12 is
axis.
okay. 12 isn't enough to hit your target number, right?
No, it's 10. Control is 9 and science is 1.
So I'm going to take some more threat. Did anybody get more than 1 success?
I got 2 successes.
2
I got 2 as
successes?
well.
2 as well. Okay. So you only needed 1 there. So I'm going to give you some momentum. Did anyone else get more than 2? Cool. So you have 2 points of momentum to spend that you can use to buy extra dice if the tests are more difficult, or you can use them to ask a question about what's going on. But I can pretty much tell you, as you scan, you are not detecting any life forms. Even setting your tricorders to look for Vulcan life forms, you're not detecting anything. You don't know if this is a result of the atmosphere or if it's just that there is nobody within range. What would you like to do from here?
I think Alana's going to have phaser in one hand, tricorder in the other, sort of kind of walking back and forth in a semicircle ahead of the group, sort of establishing what limited perimeter she can, sort of falling back on her war experiences to look for threats, almost acting more like a security officer than a command officer at the moment.
Okay, you do this, and as soon as Ro is more than a meter away from you, you lose sight of her completely until comes back round.
I would
And
charge
the only
after her immediately.
Okay, you do, and you do find her there with the tricorder. You can all see each other on your own tricorders. In fact, it's probably
Right.
the only way, unless you keep within kind of a meter and a half of each other, that you even know that you're there. Are you making your way to the outpost, or is there anything else you'd like to do?
That's probably where Ro's heading.
Okay.
I would stay immediately off of Ro's shoulder. So if Ro is leading, I am directly behind her and off to the right and just scanning, looking for any threats.
Okay. Ro, go ahead then and make me a reason plus con task. Now this is difficulty 2, so you need 2 successes. Would you like to buy any dice using some of that momentum that you've generated to kind of increase your chances of success? So you can buy 1 extra dice, 1 momentum. You've got 2 at the moment.
Yeah, and momentum is party, like a party-based pool.
Yeah, it's a party pool. You can have up to 6 points of it at once, and anyone can use
Okay.
it. Do you think you've got any
Yeah,
focuses that might...
Let's see, what was I rolling again?
So you're going to be rolling 3d20, and it's reason plus con.
Reason plus con, so that's a 12.
Do you have any focuses that you think might apply here?
Inspiration might, if Siltech is also doing a roll.
So kind of
that's
you're
the only
trying
focus
to
I
like
have.
inspire him and show him the way to do this. I'll take that. If you're like trying to guide him and kind of spark that in him, yeah, you can go
Yeah.
ahead.
Especially because I'm
means,
so new. That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
She's
So what that-
very much taking a like, okay, this is a young officer. Officers never know what they're doing anyways. So I'm just gonna show this officer, how you actually do things on the field.
Yeah.
I like it. I like that you're kind of taking a mentor figure, like you're shaping him to be the officer that you wish the other officers were, right?
Yeah,
So
one of Alana's values is that officers never know what they're doing, so you just have to be patient with them.
so go ahead, roll those 3d20, and if, because you're using that focus, if any of the dice roll under your con discipline, that's going to be an extra success. So what was your target number? 12, did you say?
Okay. So 5 in con, 7 in reasons. That's 12 total. I did get a 2, which is under the 5.
It is. That's 2
I've got the
successes.
6.
And you got the 6. That's 3 in total. You only needed 2, so you actually gained that momentum back. So you've got 2 momentum again, which is pretty cool. You have the coordinates on your tricorder, and you start trying to make your way there. Luckily, your tricorders are working kind of in that short vicinity, so it's not too difficult, as well as the fact that you know where you've transported down. You haven't had an issue in transporting down somewhere you didn't expect. You make your way, and you can't see the outpost in the distance, but you're relatively sure, based on the scans and being able to pick up the fact there's a building ahead of you, that you are there. The darkness here almost seems thicker. Whether that's just you're getting more used to it, or whether that is true, you're not too sure. But as you stumble across the arid ground and your EV lights barely illuminate the meter in front of you, finally you find walls, cabling, and closed hatches. The Vulcan outpost lies abandoned from the looks of it, void of all power. There's not a single light on. The prefab buildings here, it's not a permanent base, it's a very temporary thing. Any of the more experienced officers, you will be accustomed to having seen these. They're the kind of thing that get put up temporarily and are then removed whenever an expeditionary group or a colonist group leave. The prefab buildings here have been torn up. As you're right up close to them, you can see breaches and tears all along the alloy plated sides. You try some of the doors and none of them are open. There doesn't even appear to be any emergency power, and manually opening these doors is going to be difficult. The consoles that you see lie dead.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I would like to, before we go inside, I want to make sure I investigate that damage and try and determine what could have caused it.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So you go off and do that. There are some consoles even kind of dotted around the outside, so it's kind of like half prefab buildings, half almost camp-like. These consoles are also dead, and your tricorders all show that there's no life support functioning in the building any longer. So you want to go and have a look at the damage, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, you go over and you have to get right up close, but you can see these large gashes right across the prefab buildings that's just kind of torn into them. The damage looks like it has come from the outside in. So something outside has pulled this up.
Like, it looks like a creature did this? Like it looks like multiple rends in a row, or is it just damage in general?
It doesn't look like claws as such. It's just you can see there are holes that have been torn. Go ahead and make me a reason and either engineering or security test. It's going to be difficulty 2.
Okay.
It's going to be difficulty 2. So if you want to buy an extra dice with some momentum, you've got 1 point of momentum there for 1 dice, or you could spend 2 points of momentum and a point of threat, and give me a point of threat and have 2 extra dice.
I have a 14, so I'm going to risk it and just go ahead and roll the 2.
Do you have any focuses that might apply here?
No. unless they're horses. No. No, unfortunately not. So I rolled 2 fails.
2 fails. So you go up and you have a look, and it's hard to tell. This could be a creature. Creatures attack things like any other creature does, but it could have been caused by humans. The damage is large, but it's not like entire walls have been ripped out. You can just see like there are panels that have been ripped, torn away in places, hanging off. It's really hard to tell, especially in this darkness. what
Okay.
might be the cause of this.
Well, I check my phaser rifle charge just to make sure, and I head back to the group.
Okay. You make your way
I
back
think,
to the group. What is everyone else doing? Malco, Illyria, and Tristan, what are you doing at the moment as you approach this and you can see this torn up prefab, this abandoned base camp? Your tricorders don't show that life support is even functioning in the buildings here. Is there anything that you're doing at the moment while Siltech kind of assesses the damage?
Yeah, Tristan is going to put his tricorder away for the time being, and I'm
Okay.
not sure what the range would be on him being able to sense any emotion, but he's going to try and see if there's any emotional distress happening or any emotion of any kind that is not coming from the group.
Okay. Let's have a look here. I'm not going to make you roll for this, but as you're wandering around, you don't notice it at first because you're surrounded by other people who are in heightened states of emotion, curiosity, fear, anticipation. But suddenly you notice it as you kind of wander off a little bit. Something bigger than just them. Can't really put your finger on it, but there's something. You're not sure what the emotion is, or if it is emotion, but there's something in the back of your mind here that just kind of pings.
Okay.
As an empath who's sensitive to those kind of things, but it's not an emotion. It's not strong enough for you to really get a latch on it, but you get the sense that there's something.
Okay.
Illyria and Malco, what do you do at the moment?
Panicking. So she's not panicking, but like internally she might be low-key exploding. She's very uncomfortable off of a ship. Like, ships are known territory. She grew up on one. She does not get off often. So to A, be told, by the way, you're going down, have fun, and B, the little drone thing didn't ever come back, she's freaking out internally. So she is more on guard than anything, even though she can't see anything. And like, if she did pray to somebody, she would be praying, but she's probably just talking to herself currently, like under her breath, like, oh my goodness, I really just, it's a really nice day. I better make it back. Like, mumbling.
And how about you, Malco? What are you looking for down here? Obviously, you were sent down as the ship's CMO. If anyone needed medical attention, that's what you're here for. You all know your roles here. What is it that you're doing as everyone is kind of having a look round, just the outside of these prefabs? Nobody's gone in yet.
He would have definitely been definitely concerned that there was no response from the other group. I think at this point, he would probably also be checking maybe a different section of the building, what was causing the damage, or if he could figure that out.
Okay, sure. Go ahead, make me the same test. This is going to be reason and either security or engineering. As you two come across sections of this outpost severely damaged. Okay, so
there's a natural one in there.
So that natural one, though, is good. In 2d20, natural ones are good. They are 2 successes, and that's what you needed to pass. So you have a look round, and the damage itself, it looks almost deliberate to your eye. Somebody who's seen a lot of deliberate injuries, wounds from weapons where something has been very deliberately done. It's hard to kind of tell why, but you start to notice that very key areas of the outside of this outpost have been targeted. So you would hazard from your medical knowledge and your xenobiology knowledge that whatever did this is obviously intelligent to some degree to have targeted these areas, to have pulled panels off rather than just trying to attack a solid wall. They have clearly gone for weak points. They have clearly gone for areas that have got cabling and things like that, as opposed to solid blocks that they've just tried to mindlessly attack. As you walk forward checking this out, foot brushes against something. You look down, the light slowly drifting from the top of your EV suit. And for a second, there's the kind of glare as the light hits something a lot closer in range than everything else around you off of the front of your helmet. And as you blink, you see a face looking up at you. And as you move your head around, you see a second one. Laying on the floor, you see two people, Vulcan by the looks of their facial structure, very obviously dead. And you know this because the entire front of their EV suit's helmet has been smashed. The EV suits themselves, when you have a look at some of the key areas, they don't appear to have any power, which is odd. EV suits are, can last a considerable amount of time on the power that they have. But that is what you find. These two Vulcan scientists, from the reports, there were two at this base, dead with their EV suits smashed open. And you can see actually along the wrist and along the side areas where things like batteries and stuff would be, you can see the suit has been torn.
Okay. I would immediately call for the rest of the group to get their attention if I could, and just start seeing if I could figure out as well what caused the damage here. What maybe potentially killed these two.
Okay. So all of you get the message from Malco. What do you tell them over the comms as you hit it? And it's a bit spotty. There's a crackle. There's clearly some atmospheric conditions affecting your range, but you're all still fairly close to each other. But what do you say to your team about this discovery?
I would say I've got two here. I don't know what exactly has happened, but I need you all over here.
I go over there.
You go over there? Does anybody not go over there? You'll make your way over.
I think the chief's going to head that way, but also is going to hit her communicator and, go, initiative, this is Chief Rowe. Wait for the acknowledgement.
I'm going to spend
Does she get acknowledgement from the ship?
I'm going to spend some threat. You hit the communicator, and as you do, you say this is Chief Rowe, and you hear the crackle, the faint sound of a woman's voice on the bridge, who you know is your communications officer. But past just hearing the response, you speak. You don't hear anything back. It's just static and crackly. And you figure that perhaps the atmospheric conditions aren't particularly stable, and so communication is spotty, just like it is here on the ground. Okay. You don't know if your message will go through. You can try, but you're not receiving anything the other end. But what do you tell the ship?
So keeping that in mind, Rose's just going to say the message and then probably talk to Ilaria. Did I say that right? Cool. So yeah, she'll go, initiative, this is Chief Rowe. We've found the outpost. There's some structural damage to the facility. It looks intentional. We've got two Vulcan bodies on the ground we're investigating. Seems to be a significant threat on the surface. Possibly some creature. Life signs aren't working. The tricorders don't seem to be offering us much information. Request transporter lock on the team as we move forward. And she'll click off her communicator and look to Ilaria and go, atmosphere seems to be messing with the communicators. You think you could boost the signal?
I'll see if I can go. She will take it. She's worked with technology because ships are great. Technology is great. Yeah. But I don't think that she has anything specifically for that. What do I do?
I mean, you can have a go. I imagine that you have got tools that perhaps would be useful for doing stuff in the prefab, but perhaps not necessarily tinkering with something a bit more delicate like a communicator. So there is going to be an increased difficulty here for that.
Okay.
But I would say this is going to be control and engineering, and it's going to be, you've also got EV suits on, which makes any kind of fine work a lot more difficult. So the difficulty, it would have been 2, but you don't have any tools, so it's going to go up by 1. So you don't have the right tools for it, and you're in the EV suits, which also increases the difficulty of anything kind of fine motor related. So you're looking at a difficulty 4 here.
Is there any way for
that means that I roll 4 d20s, right?
That means you roll 2 d20s, and you can buy extra d20s if you wish. Because you've also got the thing of your communicators are kind of inside your EV suits. So, Ro, you would also have to undo a suit in order to get to it, to hand it to Illyria.
Gotcha. Yeah, but Ro probably does not understand how that works. So, but I was gonna say, is there anything that she can do to help with like inspiration or like trying to calm Illyria down while doing this action?
Yeah, I mean, you can assist with something perhaps like with presence and command.
Okay.
So what that means, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, Illyria will make it very clear that she does not actually know how this works, but she's willing to tinker with it and figure it out.
Okay. So, Ro, are you comfortable with her doing this? Because obviously, I'm going to say for the sake of it, it's Starfleet, so you're probably not going to have to take the suit off, but damage to the suit could be a problem. So I'm just going to warn you there that obviously complications could cause damage to the suit, which could affect its ability to work.
Player-wise, I am very concerned. Character-wise, I think the Chief's more focused on, like, if we can't communicate with the ship, we can't get out of here, so that's the higher threat.
Okay.
So I think the Chief's going to be like, yeah, go for it. Fix my communicator.
Okay, so how this works, Illyria, you are going to roll 2d20. If you want, you've got 2 points of momentum, so you can buy some extra dice. So for 1 point, you can buy 1 dice. For 3 points, so you have to give me some threat in that case, you can buy 2 dice. And for 6 points, so that'd be 2 points of momentum and the rest in threat, you can buy 3 dice, sorry, I can count. So you can roll up to 5d20 if you want to, so that increases your chance of success. And Ro, what you're going to do is you're going to roll 1d20. As long as Illyria gets at least 1 success, if you get 1 too, it'll be added on. So Illyria, how many dice do you want to roll? Do you want to risk it with just 2? Or do you want to buy some extra dice?
Well, I definitely want to buy some extra dice because I don't really want to, hassle la vista to my friend. But how many is the question? Okay, I think I'm going to do the one where it's the... Wait.
Well,
How many
I've got
dice would you-
14 with presence and command, so I feel pretty confident that I'm going to get you an extra success.
Okay. So should I do 1 or just risk it for the biscuit?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead because I'm concerned for your safety. I'm gonna buy 1 extra dice. So I
One
roll
extra
3.
You roll 3d20, yeah. So that leaves you with 1 momentum in the bank. So go ahead, roll 3d20, and you're going to add together your control and security. and you want to tell me how many dice rolled equal to or under that number.
Oh, I cannot.
It's
type
the
it
other
out today.
the other slash. It'll be the other
Oh,
slash.
that's. Oh my goodness. So it's a Jordan problem the whole time. That makes so much sense.
That's okay.
Oh, yay! Okay.
Okay. So
And
what's
it
your
has to
target
be-
number?
So it has
So-
to be under my
Control
sorry.
plus security. So
so
have a
my
look at your
control plus. It's going to be under 15.
under 15. So your control is 12 and your
Yes.
sorry, control and engineering, so under 15. Okay, so all of those are under 15. So that is 3 successes. And because you got a success, Rose's success that she rolled is also added to that. So you got the 4 you needed. You don't get any extra momentum, but you manage it and you haven't rolled any 20s. So you in your EV
Doing a
suit,
great job, Commander.
it's clumsy and it's difficult because you've got these big gloves on, but you managed to pry off one of the panels on the suit, and you managed to kind of mess around with some of the wiring to kind of give it a temporary boost. And I imagine, Ro, that you repeat the message that you've given.
Yes.
You get a very fuzzy, spotty message back that from all of the kind of broken, garbled sounds, you think has informed you that they have received the message and they will attempt to keep transporter lock on you. But it's, again, it's spotty. You don't know how long this boost is going to last. But, Illyria, you don't think that you've caused any damage to the suit. You managed to cover it back over. You haven't torn any fabric. There's a couple of, like, scuff marks around the metal plate where you've pried it open. But other than that, the suit seems fine.
She definitely appears more comfortable, like in her environment after working on something that's close to her. So she's a little more now than like on guard.
Cool. So as you're now both, I imagine, making your way towards Malco, we're going to switch over there. Malco, you're there. Siltek, you've arrived. Tristan, you've also arrived, shortly followed by Ro and Illyria. And all of you can see these 2 dead Vulcans in their EV suits. The front of the helmets are smashed in. It looks like there are some key areas on the suits that have been ripped open and exposed.
Okay.
Does anyone want to
Siltek-
do anything?
Yeah, sorry, I keep jumping in. I apologize. Siltek has this rifle off his shoulder and is now continuously placing himself. Since there's like this void that seems to be everywhere, like we're just kind of swallowed by it. But there's like, if there's a wall nearby, that's something where we can establish place, right? So
Yeah.
Siltek is constantly putting himself wherever the greatest void is between that and the rest of the party. He always wants to be where the greatest void is because that's where he expects something to come from.
You can do. You're by a wall here, so you can firmly place that wall is behind you and you know that there is something solid there.
Yeah.
Is anything else? Malco, you said you wanted to kind of see if you could work out what killed these 2 scientists.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, roll me an insight plus medicine, and it's going to be difficulty 2. Again, it's awkward because it's dark and your headlamps are providing light, but not nearly as much as they should. Would you like to buy any dice? Oh, no, you got it. Do you have any focus?
No, I was focus. I would imagine maybe something like xenobiology might come into play.
I'll say xenobiology will work because you are not Vulcan and therefore technically they are aliens. So you have a look, and upon getting closer, you can confirm these are 2 of the Vulcan Expeditionary Group. You would have seen photos and been given their names. Obviously, Starfleet had that information. This is Menos, and the other one is Valar. They are definitely dead. You can confirm that. Their bodies are frozen inside these EV suits, which appear to be non-functioning. If you would like to spend some momentum, I can give you a little bit more information with the obtain information spend. So you've got a point in the bank right now.
I think so. Real quick, my let me double check. My medicine is a 5. So would that 5 count as 2
It would.
on what I rolled? Okay.
Yes. So that would be an extra. So you'd have 2 points of momentum to spend.
Then yeah, I'll go ahead and use the momentum I just received and get a little bit more information.
Okay. So we'll spend that one. The Vulcans themselves, you determine after doing a few more tests, died of asphyxiation, despite the fact that they have got some wounds to the face, clearly where the glass has caved in. Those wounds and the blunt force trauma that it looks like a couple of them have received to the face as well don't appear to be their cause of death. So they were essentially suffocated by the atmosphere after the suit was breached. You do also notice, in kind of moving the bodies and checking them over, that the breaches on the suit, which you check for any other injury, you recognize as anyone who is a member of Starfleet would, and as the bodies are rolled over and moved, any of you here can see this as well. The breaches in the suit are at key power points. They're where the batteries would be. They're where the electrical cabling runs through. That appears to be the only places that the suit has been ripped.
Okay. I will absolutely communicate that to the rest of the group. And I think you would just spend more time just trying to see if there's any other small bits or pieces he might have missed. Just thoroughly examining the bodies as best as possible.
You continue to examine, and there's really not much else to find. If anything, it just looking at the second body, it's definitely asphyxiation. It's definitely not the blunt force that they've suffered that killed them. You looking at it to find out any more about what's really happened here, or perhaps, you would figure that you're going to probably have to have a look in the prefabs, perhaps get power running to really have a look and see what's going on, because there may be medical logs, there may be information about anything that they found on the planet if you're suspecting that they have been attacked by something. But currently it's got no power, the prefab itself, so that'll be it's a whole new challenge aside from working out what killed these men.
Quick question. The damage on the outside, was that also focused on areas that were either transmitting power, generating power? Like, was the damage on the outside where power was passing through?
Would you like to spend a momentum to have the answer to that?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got no more momentum in the bank at the moment.
Sorry.
But Siltek, as you realize this, you take another look at that damage. In fact, all of you probably do now, because you're right up by one of these walls. The only places that are damaged are areas that have got cabling run through them, where the panels have been ripped. Access points where perhaps external cables could be run for power. Anywhere that's got power running through it or used as a power source is damaged severely.
Chief, either someone knew exactly where to attack and planned this out carefully, or something's hungry for power.
I was going to say the same thing. Whatever this is, it's more power hungry than a Cardassian Glen. No offense, sir.
None taken.
Maybe we should, I don't know, is there any way that we could reduce the power we're using? I don't want to attract this thing.
You are pretty much, although you're using power, you're not using a whole ton at the moment, kind of individually. So nothing. You're showing no life signs. You're not seeing anything on tricorders right now. But reducing your power would basically reduce the efficiency of your EV suits. You run the risk of letting atmosphere into them.
Gotcha. So not a good idea.
How much of that atmosphere can I handle with my artificial lungs?
You're probably not very sure.
Okay. I guess I won't test that. All right. Thank you.
I mean, you can do. You don't. It's not a thing that if you breathe in like one breath of it, it's going to kill you. But you
Right.
certainly would have minutes at most for a normal, average humanoid thing that breathes atmosphere comparable to Earth's.
Gotcha.
What is Tristan doing at the minute? Because you've sensed something here, and now there are the two Vulcans that you were hoping to find within this outpost are dead, and the outpost itself has got no power. So right now it can't tell you anything about what's going on. You know that it did have power at one point a few days ago because it sent a distress beacon.
Tristan is. I would like to see if either of the bodies have tricorders or any kind of scanning equipment or anything on them or near them, whether functioning or not.
There is nothing near the bodies. But you do know that inside the prefab itself and this kind of base camp will be all of their notes, their findings, their equipment, presumably if you can get it power.
Okay, that's where I'm going to start heading then. I'm going to see how we can get inside this place.
Okay. You go around and you opening the doors manually is some effort, but I will say that if all of you are willing to take the time, I won't make anybody roll for it. It takes you about 20 minutes, probably with the massive help of Illyria in understanding how these prefabs are put together, in getting these doors open, removing key components that might be in the way. And as you enter, the one thing that you realize as you go through, there are no members of the expedition present here. So you know that there is another group of Vulcans, which was mentioned in the distress call, that went out on expedition, who didn't return. They are not here. All of the power, Illyria, as you have a look at it, being the engineer and the specialist in this, has been drained. That includes the emergency power and the backup batteries. If you have a look at any of the equipment, all of the EV suits here are gone. You can see the locker where they would be. It's very clearly labeled. There are no EV suits left. You would assume that the two Vulcans you found outside are wearing two of them, and the rest of them went with the other expedition that has not returned. Tristan, as you go through, you can find consoles and equipment. There is still a console that is still intact that you would imagine would be like a main control unit, somewhere logs might be inputted, but it is, again, dead, as there is no power.
In my experience, when power is gone, is it gone forever, or is there a way that I can like jump kick this thing? Well, I guess I wouldn't really have enough to like get it going, but like, can I isolate like a computer and start the computer without dying?
You could try to jury rig something to generate some power. You know that you could also try and communicate with the ship, because you still essentially boosted the signal on Rose's suit. You don't know how long that will last, but you could try and get them to send you down some power equipment in order to kind of jury rig in, and you can attempt to get that working.
Yeah, I'll definitely ask if we can contact them to send me something to work with, because otherwise, with my suit, and I would really not like to die on a planet, I'd like to die on a ship, please.
Okay, go ahead. I'm going to say, go ahead and make me, as you're talking to the ship, and you're trying to get somebody up there to send you some stuff down. I mean, you are the chief engineer, but in order to kind of get your point across well in the conditions that are here, I'd like you to go ahead and roll me a presence and engineering test. And this is going to be difficulty 0. So you're not rolling to see if you succeed. You're rolling to see how well you do at communicating this. This is a chance to earn momentum. So every single success that you roll will generate momentum. And it will also depend on kind of the level of equipment that you might be sent down. So you can choose to give me some threat if you like, to roll extra dice, which will generate potentially extra momentum. Or you can just go ahead and roll the 2d20 and see where they land. You can't fail this as such.
Is there any way that I can assist since it's going through my comm badge? Or comm system?
Not as such, because you're kind of passive in that sense. In that it's she's using that signal to get up, but you're not directly influencing this test.
Okay, I'm not like relaying her message. Yeah. I gotcha.
So did you want to buy any dice to try and bump up the momentum, or do you just want to go ahead and roll the 2d20?
Yeah, I want to buy. How do I know how much threat I have?
Currently, I've got so it'd be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14 points of threat. So I start with 2 for each of you. So it's not actually that big of an amount. It sounds a lot scarier than it is.
Okay. I'm gonna use 1 threat if that's okay.
That's fine. So go ahead. You can roll 3 d20. You can't fail the test, so it's just how much momentum you generate. So if this is presence and engineering. So what's your target number?
12.
12. Okay, so I will say, have you got a focus in power systems at all, or anything power related? Have a look.
No, I thought about it and then I did it. Yeah, no, I've only got mechanical and like the starship construction, like how everything works.
Okay, but you still generated 1 point of momentum. So you've got that in the bank, so that's pretty good. You communicate your idea fairly well across. You let them know what kind of power systems you need and can they transport that down to your location. You did roll a 20, however, which is a little bit of a problem because they are complications. And what happens is as soon as you finish that transmission, you see a little, there's a small puff of smoke as the communicator on Rose's suit stops working.
Commander, what was that? That my suit's not supposed to make sparks. What just is? Please tell me I'm not like venting atmosphere or anything.
You are not venting atmosphere. You seem to still be able to communicate with your fellows here on the ground, but when you try to communicate up to the ship, that long-range communication has been damaged. So
Perfect. Anything
kind of outside your immediate vicinity, it's going to be a bit difficult to get hold of anybody.
Okay.
Is that just the is that just the chief's communicator, or is that all of ours?
Just the chief's.
Then I would go up to the chief, swap mine out. So, because it's more important that they talk to the ship than I do, I just need to make sure everyone else is covered. So I'll give them mine.
I imagine that these are built into the EV suit.
Oh,
otherwise
right.
You have to unzip them. So you can try and swap suits if you like.
No, that's a bad idea. We're not doing that.
However, within the next few minutes, phasing in and out as again, like you struggle to get down, an electroplasma system, small scale one, is beamed down to you, Illyria. So having assessed and looking at the power system, you don't have to roll for this, you are an expert in your field. The electroplasma system of the base appears to have overloaded because of a massive unregulated transfer of power. So that is where something pulls and draws power at a rate too fast, too quickly, or unexpectedly on a system. You need to integrate your electroplasma kind of generator, it's the equivalent of, into the system within the prefabs. This isn't necessarily an easy job because of the darkness, and you're in an EV suit, so you have even less of your kind of fine motor skills to use here. And it involves also patching up a couple of areas where cables have been torn, etc. So this is going to be difficulty 3 to do, but you can have somebody assist if you like, and just let me know what it is. What would you want them to do? Narratively, if you're kind of doing the big job of installing this generator, who do you send off to kind of have a look at it? Obviously, Tristan is our ship's counselor, but he's also a pretty experienced holo engineer, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably who I would have help me out, because I assume that like I've been around Tristan, and so like that is the individual that in my brain is like, this person is gonna know more about what we're trying to do. So if Tristan is willing, Illyria will accept.
Absolutely.
Assist us.
Yep.
Okay, so Illyria, while you install that power system, Tristan, you are tasked with kind of patching up some of those areas where perhaps cabling's been damaged or routing has been disrupted. This is something you're quite used to doing, right? Is playing around with power systems, rerouting things.
Yeah, tinkering.
Okay, so Illyria, I need you to make me a control plus engineering task. This is difficulty 3. I don't think any of your focuses here will apply, unfortunately, because you don't have electroplasma systems or power systems as a focus. And then Tristan, I need you to roll, because you're assisting, it's just a single d20. And how are you kind of going about this? Are you going about it using kind of your knowledge from holo engineering to kind of do this? Or are you going more for the precise, controlled, kind of Starfleet engineering?
I think
How does Tristan react to this?
I think Tristan is going to use his years messing around with holo technology and sort of tinkering and trying to make new things rather than going necessarily by the book, because this doesn't seem like it's necessarily a by the book situation to him. This is all a bit, bit strange. So yeah, he's gonna try his best and see what happens.
Okay, so let's first, Illyria, if you want to go ahead and roll that, would you like to buy any d20s? You do have a point of momentum in the bank, or you can also pay in threat. You can have up to 3 extra dice if you wish. This is difficulty 3.
So okay, I'm trying to clarify. Difficulty 3, does that mean that I need to roll 3 dice and succeed to choose what I'm going for?
No, so you always roll 2d20, so that's like your baseline. You're always going to roll that. Difficulty 3 is how many successes you need. So how many of those dice roll equal to or under that target number by adding those things together. So
okay.
So you can buy extra dice to increase your chances of succeeding. To do that, so it's difficulty 3, so you need to have 3 successes essentially on 2 dice. So that either means that you don't have a focus, so you either need to roll a 1 and then under your target number. That is pretty much the only way you can get 3 successes, or you have to roll 2 successes and Tristan has to roll a success on his assist.
Okay. All of me wants to not spend money on dice because of if it's the type of check that it is, I think that I can really easily roll under it twice.
You don't have a focus that applies here as well, so you won't be getting any bonuses for rolling under your engineering skill.
Okay, maybe I will.
Do you have any talents that might help you? Because your talents list, let's have a look. Let me bring them up.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually you have cautious engineering, which means if you buy a d20 by spending momentum, you get to re-roll one of them.
Oh, cool. Okay. I will do that if that's cool.
Okay, so you spend that point of momentum. So you're now rolling 3d20s, and you can re-roll any one of them. So if one of them fails or one of them's a complication, you can re-roll that one.
Oh, yay. Okay.
So you're looking for control and engineering. So your target number is
17.
17. Okay, so they are all successes. So you don't have to re-roll. If you want to re-roll to try and get a 1, you can, but you've hit the difficulty here, so you don't have to. Tristan, do you want to go ahead and just roll 1d20, and you're going to be using reason and engineering. Or insight and engineering even, I think, would probably work here. All good? Okay, so that's 4 successes, which is 1 more than you needed. So you've got a point of momentum back. So that point that you spent, you've just regained. Okay, so you manage to install this system. Tristan, you get the last of those cables and those access points sorted. Illyria, you power up the electroplasma system, and everything around you kind of hums to life. There are sparks, and it's this sharp noise against the mostly silence. And suddenly, in a room that has been mostly pitch black, where you've only kind of been able to see whatever is illuminated a meter in front of you, comes to life a bit more. It's still very dark. It's almost just like you can now see where the consoles are because they kind of glow in the darkness of this room. But going over to one of the systems, you know that these are obviously going to, whenever there's a breach like this, they're going to go into lockdown. And that also means that data can be corrupted. So you're going to have to try and recover them. Don't forget, however, that all of you have got crit successes here, which I'm going to do for this as a kind of auto success on something. So you don't even have to roll. But Tristan, you were the one that wanted to kind of have a look and see what was on some of these computers.
Yeah.
So, I imagine you're standing by one when it comes to life, and it's that kind of main servery computer that you saw when you came in. Did you want to have a go at maybe trying to get into it and recover the systems?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, this is going to be reason plus engineering, and it's difficulty 2. We can see if any of your focuses apply, or you have got that auto success if you just want to be able to do it.
This is true. I have a focus in computer technology, so
that will absolutely help.
Okay.
So if anything rolls 5 or under, it's 2 successes.
Cool. How many successes do you say I need?
You need 2 for this.
2, and this is control and engineering. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, for this, I feel like this is really important, so I'm going to use my crit for this.
Okay, I want you to describe to me how you do this. How does Tristan figure out how to kind of bring these systems back and kind of recover some of this information?
I imagine he sort of goes quite quiet and a little bit zen, and is just sort of going to sort of methodically work his way through. It's something that he's done a lot. He keeps making mistakes, and maybe he keeps getting thrown back, but he's just keeping calm and just going through the motions and just ticking it off one thing at a time until he gets there.
Okay, so as you go through methodically, it takes a little bit of time, but you do get there. And you manage to unlock this system. You manage to start recovering files, and all of you can see as these terminals come to life even more now, as data begins to kind of stream. Some of them are still damaged and they kind of blink on and off, but you all see this happening. Before we carry on with what you're doing there, what is everyone else in the room doing? Obviously, Illyria, I imagine you're checking the power stuff, making sure nothing's gonna spark and blow. But Malco, what are you doing here? And Rowan, Siltech?
Siltech is trying. Sorry, go
I was going to say, Malco would probably, after checking the bodies and getting all that he could, he probably would wait a moment, and then once kind of life started to come back into the actual building, he'd want to go over to a terminal or of some sort and see if he could pull up medical logs. So
Okay. You start, pulling up some medical logs. There's not really much that you can see. Most of the checks, you can see that the Vulcans were healthy. Everyone was in good condition. Nobody was suffering from anything. They noted that the atmosphere here, although they had EV suits, they were only used very, very minimally at the very beginning of their expedition, when they were still unsure of whether or not the atmosphere was stable. But it appears that midway through, they kind of stopped using them. You can't see any reason for anyone here to be sick or be ill. They were in very good health. But as you look up those logs, Tristan, you come across some others. You come across some research logs that are dated quite recently. And if you wish, you can pull these up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, you pull these up and you click through them, and you get a series of logs which play over some speakers in here loud enough for all of you to hear, as what appears to be the voice of Menos, one of the Vulcans that you sadly found outside and could identify, comes over the speakers. Stardate 47197.4. Establishing base camp, we have deduced the planet's semi-major axis as 00.3556 AU. Orbital eccentricity of 0.0018. Orbital period of 2.47063 days. Rotational period of 6.125 hours. And an orbital inclination of 83.57. The day and night period will take some adjustment. Stardate 47248.1. This morning, several unidentified objects fell and impacted the surface of the planet, producing substantial shockwaves, which has impaired some of our equipment, most notably sensors. While first thought of as large meteorites, scans detect life signs, and as such, an exploratory team has been selected to investigate the phenomena. The nearest impact site is a day's travel by desert flyer. I have not been selected. Stardate 47249.9. We have not heard from the exploratory team today. We will attempt to re-establish communications by transmitting every 3 hours with the standard call and response procedure. Stardate 47250.5. A storm has begun to move in on our position, an intensely thick black storm. The sensors are measuring sudden electrostatic discharges from its strange composition. This weather was not detected in orbit by initial surveys, so I must continue to try and gain telemetry. Though as noted in my previous log, the sensor equipment has been functioning at 37.51% efficiency since the impacts. Stardate 47251.7. The atmospheric phenomenon is all around us now, having entirely replaced the composition of the Class H atmosphere of the planet previously. No contact has been made with the exploratory team, and I am uncertain our communications have been penetrating the atmospheric phenomenon. We have decided to activate a distress call to alert Starfleet to our situation. Expedition log. Supplemental. We are under attack from an unknown alien species. They have inflicted breaches to the structure of the buildings and the main power is offline. Environmental controls are failing. I have ordered Lavar to prepare the EV suits. This log will be our last here. We will... And that is where the log ends, as Menos' voice is cut off with the sound of a crash. An uncomfortable pause follows, and then muffled sounds of crunches and alien-like screams before the computer closes the log and it finishes.
I think this would definitely qualify as strange new life.
Yes. Yes.
Does anybody have any questions about the logs? Any information that they would like to hear repeated or explained?
I think I'm good. I think Ro's going to start rapidly looking for anything inside the structure to reinforce the walls, pattern enhancers to try to get off the planet, things like that. Basically preparing for worst case scenarios.
Well, currently you don't really have any contact with the ship since your communicator went kind of kaputs. Looking around, there's really not much here to reinforce the walls, and you kind of understand that it's the nature of the prefab. Clearly, from what was said, they were not, they did not know that the planet would become under these conditions. This is something that happened. These impact sites, the impacts of the planets, were something that happened while they were here. You do know that the one thing that you can do is you can reestablish life support. So at least you can make the air in here breathable. As you saw on the outside, the damage hasn't actually punctured the entire structure, just where the power systems were present.
Okay. I think the chief might say that's an option, but looking at everybody should probably go, I'm not sure that we want to do that, considering it seemed to draw a lot of unwanted attention.
You also know from these expedition logs, obviously, the other group, you now have the coordinates to where they went. So it noted in there that they went off to have a look at the closest impact site, about a day's travel from here, and that they didn't return from that expedition. And you have the coordinates for that location now as well, where perhaps these other Vulcans have gone. What are you all doing? What are you all saying to each other as you've heard this over the speakers, that final panicked log from Menos, who you found sadly outside deceased? You're all now inside this Vulcan prefab, the power just about running thanks to Illyria. Tristan, you're stood over by this console having played these logs. Malco, you see no reason to... This confirms it. It was not, it wasn't something like cabin fever and the Vulcans attacked each other or anything like that. This was clearly another entity that was not present on the planet before, but was after these impacts, and that seems to be where the changes come from. You have a scientific lab at your disposal as well. So if you wanted to maybe kind of have a look and start building a hypothesis for what's going on to try and give yourself some more information, you can do that. There is something called the scientific method, which is part of the Star Trek rules, where you can actually kind of observe what's going on, build a hypothesis, try and test it, and then the results will actually yield you some information potentially about what's happening. And obviously you're in a great place to do that if you want to stay here.
I think Ro at the moment is going like, what would have been great? What we could really use right now is a shuttle. That would have been a great idea. Can't remember who suggested that. She's just sort of complaining to herself, just out loud.
And I believe all of you are officers. You have this petty chief here complaining that there is no shuttle.
Speaking of the shuttle, actually, that sparks... Siltech is going to go to a console and try to connect with that probe that we sent into the atmosphere. Maybe we can link to it on this side easier than we could from the ship.
Okay, you can go ahead and do that. Make me this is going to be reason and engineering, and it's going to be difficulty 3. It's not going to be easy.
Okay, so I need 12s. Can I spend my critical success?
You can, to just succeed?
Yes.
Okay. You do. Describe to me how you're doing it. What's Siltek's thoughts here? What is he looking for?
This
as
is
you
what he
see
wants.
this young officer rush over to a console.
The idea he has is that we need more eyes on this situation. There's a party that went a day's travel by desert glider, and he's not even sure what that is. There are days of travel this way. We need to know and be able to see more than we're seeing. So he's trying to connect to that probe so they can get a top-down view, or at least a better view of their immediate area, and then connect that with his station here.
Okay. You do that. You connect to the probe, and the first thing you pick up is that it is on little to no power whatsoever. It is
being
just
drained as
fading
well.
out. You can tell from downloading its logs before the power finally shuts off and you lose all signal that the probe suffered an impact, possibly several impacts. The only information it really managed to pick up was, and it doesn't say what, but it detected a substance in the atmosphere which was not present in the information you had about the planets that the Vulcan Expeditionary Group had originally. So a new substance has been introduced to the atmosphere.
Okay.
As far as that can tell you, which is possibly what's making it so dangerous to breathe, and it explains the asphyxiation of the two Vulcans outside.
All right, Siltek takes that information. Oh, sorry. Siltek takes that info and throws it onto Ro's console and says, "Chief, if we'd come down in a shuttle, we'd all be dead already."
Fair enough. And she shuts up.
So, my question to you is, what do you want to do moving forward? You are obviously in a science prefab base. Did you want to try and perhaps form an idea of what might be happening here to better inform what you're doing going forward and kind of go through the scientific method? It's quite fun. So, you have observed this atmosphere. And obviously the lead discipline here is going to be science. That is predominantly kind of what you're going to be basing a lot of this theory around. So what I need somebody to be the research lead. So this might be somebody with the highest science skill. It might be somebody who is the most interested in trying to dig into this. So who would like to take on being the research lead of this kind of scientific method we're about to do?
I think given my focus in xenobiology and I think Malcolm would want to lead it, and I think his idea is concerning what may have attacked. Maybe trying to figure out a little bit more.
Okay, so you are the research lead. You start pulling up information, getting stuff ready. The next step to the scientific method is the really fun one, where all of you get to kind of chat to each other as a crew. And what I need you to do is come up with somewhere between 3 to 5 focuses. They don't have to be focuses that you have, but just kind of those short words, those few words, like focuses are, to hypothesize what is going on. So predominantly, I guess the first one is like the change in atmosphere, which might explain what has attacked the crew, because we know that the change in atmosphere then led to, the crew here being attacked. So you don't need to have this focus in order to choose it, but what are you all saying to each other? What are your thoughts? What ideas are you bouncing off of each other? As now, this is what you have to do. You have to figure out perhaps what has made this change in the atmosphere and why.
Could this, Chief talking to everybody else, could this be some sort of new alien race that's trying to, my mind is blanking on the word, take over, infiltrate, that's the word I was looking for. Infiltrate the Federation. This seems like, to me, it seems like some sort of weird terraforming, and obviously they either survive on power or energy, or it's valuable to them in some way. should we be treating this as a hostile force?
Is there any suggestion that whatever did this accessed any of the information on the base? Are we the only ones to access that information?
As far as you can tell, yes.
Okay.
The only thing that's really been done here is the power being drained. It doesn't look like anyone has tried to access the systems since that last log, at least, was done.
Chief, they weren't looking for info. No one here is fighting. They're feeding. These creatures are looking for food. That's my guess.
Did you say that we could potentially turn on life support?
Yes.
Yeah. And would that essentially sort of make the environment inside the prefabs very different to the atmosphere outside?
Yes, so that would allow you to remove your EV suits within the prefab.
Okay. If everyone's okay with it, I'm going to suggest temporarily turning on life support in the prefabs.
Yeah, I think we'll need to have sensors or at least eyes on the outside because they seem to be attracted to power. So I don't know how big of a target this is going to paint on us, but I mean, I'd be okay with it for a short time.
Yeah,
I'll take a position outside.
I'll also be heading outside once the life support comes on.
There's not by any chance a rope around, is there? I'm sorry.
You're good.
If you would like to give me a point of threat, you can have rope.
Yeah, I'm thinking, you know what? Yeah, just in case I got to hog tie something out here, I want that rope.
Okay, you do manage to find some rope. It looks like it hasn't been used and perhaps was brought along just in case it was needed for any part of the expedition. It's less like traditional rope and more like a tether, but it'll do the job.
Yeah, awesome.
Is it possible for me to work the power to where it's only powering one thing at a time? So like cut the power to the computers and flip it to life support so that it's not drawing as much power?
You can do, but once you do that, you won't be able to run your hypothesis through the computer simulations.
Okay, never mind.
Actually, if does Alira like vocalize that thought process?
Yeah, so she's very concerned that if it is, every sign has told us that it is drawn to power. So if I pull too much power out of this, then we become a target, and I'm not willing to lose, well, on a deep level, I'm not willing to lose my safe space on this planet, but on a like intellectual level, that's not smart.
I think that might give Ro an idea. So she'll look at Alira and say, one thing that we had to do in the wars when we get cut off from, our supply chains, we'd have to come up with really interesting ways to power our equipment, our weapons. We've got these tricorders and they're pretty much useless outside. So maybe we could rig up some of these tricorders together and to power the computer that we need to run while we, use the rest just for life support.
I'm down to try it.
I mean, I don't know how to do that, but some of the other guys in my unit did that once.
Tristan and Alira, you're one of, or both of you, especially Tristan with kind of like, I imagine with doing lots of hollow based stuff, you've run hollow simulations off of anything you could get your hands on before now. So you could definitely try that. It is difficult though. Re-establishing life support is a control engineering task with a difficulty of 4.
Ooh, okay.
Life support systems are tricky. The slightest miscalculation in how they should be filtering atmosphere could be quite dangerous.
Okay.
Chief, are you just looking for a distraction? Bigger source of energy to cover up what you're doing here?
That's a good thought. That kind of wasn't what I had my thought process on, but There may be hope for you yet, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Chief. What if I set one of our phasers to slowly build in power, set it outside, maybe lay a little trap for our friends?
That's not a bad idea. We want to make sure it's far enough away that they're not going to come to that and then immediately look at us. But yeah, we could rig that up pretty easy. Might give us a chance to get a look at these things at least.
Couldn't hurt.
Okay, so we got a couple of things going on. So I'm imagining Ro and Siltek, you're working on rigging up this lure. And then
Yeah.
Tristan and Illyria, you're working on getting the life support systems going.
To be honest, like, Tristan's thought process at the moment is to literally get life support on for like maybe 10-15 seconds. That's all he needs to test a theory that he has.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then Malco, you're the research lead. So very quickly going back to the scientific method, there were some words thrown around here that could kind of be used as those focuses. So what are people's kind of initial thoughts that they might want to test? I heard the words terraforming. I heard the words infiltration. Which of these things do we want to go for as kind of a hypothesis to test with these systems? Because you can run simulations on these quite easily with some of the parameters that you already know about. Which of these things do you want to go for? Did you want to try and simulate what an infiltration with the knowledge you have might lead to? Did you want to kind of try terraforming as your hypothesis? Which
My
did you want to
vote
go
would be
for?
terraforming for the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think terraforming is closest to what I think might be happening.
Okay, then. So Malco as research lead, is that what you want to go for? You want to maybe run some simulations around the atmosphere to see if this looks like potentially a terraforming process?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Okay, so you are going to be by yourself doing this, unfortunately, because the others are tied up trying to get life support back on and setting up this lure. So these things are all kind of happening simultaneously. So the first thing I'm going to need you to do, so this is going to use science. I would like you to use it's going to be reason plus science. The difficulty here, I'm gonna drop it down a little bit actually, from 4 to 3. How many dice would you like to roll? So you start with 2d20. You've got a point of momentum in the bank, or you can give me some threat to get even more.
I think I will use the 1 momentum for now to get 1 more d20.
Okay, yeah, so you're rolling 3d20, and it's a difficulty 3 test. And I think here let's have a look. Let's have a look at your focuses. Xenobiology will definitely apply, so you do have a focus that applies here.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, that would have been a target with 15. So
Target with a 15.
there's 2 successes there.
2 successes. It's not quite enough. What I will say, normally you have to state that you're using a talent and kind of do this beforehand, but I know everyone's a little bit new to stuff. So you actually have a talent called, this is with medicine. It's not science, unfortunately. Let's have a look. Okay, so you only got 2 successes. So unfortunately, that is a failure. You first run the simulation, and I imagine while Tristan and Illyria are messing around with the life support, you lose power for a second, and so it doesn't give you traditional results. If you wish, you can try again in a little bit. We'll get round to everybody. By yourself, that'll up the difficulty, or maybe you'll ask someone to come in and help you run that simulation, because that seems to be the hypothesis that everyone's kind of nodding at and agreeing with so far. Let's switch over. Ro and Siltek. how are you putting this this lure together that you're building?
Well, I'm figuring they're coming after power, so I don't think it's got to be that complicated. We take a phaser, we set to slowly build, and I'm just gonna make a little noose here and catch whatever comes running. So basically just like put like a loop of rope and the phaser in the middle of it, and then just kind of back up, right? Maybe hide behind a bush, wait for something to show up.
Okay. You are going to be down a phaser though, and obviously, oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Well,
you are going to be down a phaser.
bro.
Oh, okay. You are down
I
a
was
phaser
muted,
then.
sorry.
And if you're setting it to you're setting it to like slowly grow in power, right? This will this will damage it. Essentially, this lure will only last so long before it goes boom. If you're setting it to kind of do that.
I got a phaser and a rifle, so I can sacrifice my phaser, and I'll just trust the rifle.
Okay.
Ro's gonna be set up like sort of in a flanking position to where the trap is,
Nice.
With a phaser ready as well. And the thing I was trying to say while I was muted and didn't realize it is Ro speaking to Siltek, going, "I see what you're doing here. So you're basically trying to set up like a vole trap."
That's the goal.
Huh. Hopefully it's not that much bigger than a vole. We'll see.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make you roll for this because you're tinkering around with things.
Sure.
I do imagine that Ro is also outside of the blast radius if this lure does explode for any reason.
Oh yeah, she's staying well away from the trap.
So this is going to be control and engineering, Siltek.
Okay.
And you're outside of the prefab, so you're in an EV suit and it's dark. So the difficulty is going to be, let's see, EV suits increase it by, let me just double check this so I don't make it too difficult by accident.
Sure.
Would not want to do that.
Can I inspire my ambitious young lieutenant here?
You can do. Is that a talent that you have for inspiration, or you want to assist?
Well, both actually. I have a focus and inspiration, but I also have the. Oh no, it's not a talent; it's a value. Never mind. But I do have a focus and inspiration.
Okay. So it's going to be difficulty 4.
Okay.
To do this.
Okay.
And what I am going to do is, because you're not an engineer and you are still quite new, so I imagine you haven't picked up perhaps some of the engineering skills that more experienced officers, even outside of engineering, would have picked up.
That would be correct.
And I'm going to increase the complication range. So you know how bad things happen on 20s?
Yes.
Bad things happen now on 18, 19, and 20.
Okay, all right.
So the difficulty is to do with the conditions, the fact that you're kind of working without the tools, in the darkness, in an EV suit. So that's why that's increased. And the complication range is more to do with your kind of experience and knowledge there, and the fact that you're setting a phaser to essentially slow burn until it blows up.
Right. Okay. Well,
actually,
my control plus my engineering is 10, so we're starting with that.
Can I just use my auto success on this and like pause and go, wait a minute, what am I doing?
Not while you're assisting. Not while you're assisting, unfortunately, because it's not your successes when you assist, like when you roll, only count if the lead character succeeds on their test.
Right.
So
okay.
I gotcha. I was gonna see if I could like stop Siltek and go like, wait a minute, I should be the one to do this.
Yeah, I should have saved my auto success for this one.
So thank you so much to Radiator RPG for those wonderful bits. They say engage, so see how this goes.
All right. Well, if I have 2 dice to roll and I have a hopefully inspiration, I am going to have to spend. Is there anything left to spend? Because this is going to be hard.
I believe you have 1 point of momentum.
I will spend that momentum.
Do you want to buy any other dice? Because you can buy up to 3. The rest will be with threat, though.
I will spend one more, so I have 4 dice. Just
So-
to,
so-
yeah, okay.
So there'll be 2 more. So the first one is 1, and the next one is going to be
Right.
2 threat.
Okay, all right, I'll do it just to make sure.
Okay, so
So
you
I'm
are
rolling
rolling 4
4
dice. Yep. And Ro, I want you to, you're going to assist with presence and command.
Here I go.
Perfect.
I
One.
rolled 2 successes.
2 successes. So do you have any focuses that might apply here, Siltech?
I mean, if we do attract the thing horseback riding, but as far as like just setting it
so-
up, no.
Yeah, so you've got hand-to-hand combat rather than phasers, so you don't have a
Right.
focus that applies. So that is
Right.
2, but then Ro has also rolled a natural 1, so that is 2
Oh!
successes there. So that is your
I do
4
have a
successes.
focus in hand phasers too.
Way to
do have a
pull
focus.
that out, Ro. Damn.
So you manage this, and you very nearly end up overloading the wrong setting that would have set this off in a very quick burn. And Ro, you've seen this in the war. You have seen improvised weapons used this way. You know, phaser-like energy weapons that have been turned into essentially grenades as a last-ditch attempt. And you spot the mistake Stiltech is about to make, and stop. And
Okay.
you manage this.
Whoa! You're gonna blow us all. You're gonna blow us both up. Stop!
Stop and chief.
Do it this way. This way. That button goes there, and this wire goes there.
I see. Okay. Thanks, chief.
Whew, that was close.
Okay, so you set this off, and you can hear it's that horrible high-pitched whine that slowly rises. You may have a few minutes at most before this thing blows, so you place it where you want, you get yourselves in position. And while you've been doing this, 2 other people have been tinkering around, and that is Illyria and Tristan, as you're trying to get life support back on. Tell me, what are both of you doing? How are you trying to do this? Because I know you want to be very careful about what you're doing. I imagine there's a frustrated kind of growl from Malco somewhere off in the corner as you pull a power cable, one of you, and the computers frazzle out for a second. What are the 2 of you doing?
So I'm trying to find a way to obviously we don't want to draw a lot of attention. This thing seems to be drawn to power, so I'm trying to find a way to give us maybe a 30-second boost of life support in the prefab, and hopefully be able to turn it off then without any complications. What are your thoughts?
So I can tell you where everything generally is. Hold on, Jordan has a question. In order to get life support on, is it one of those things where I have to connect it and then tinker with it post connection, or is it something that I can pre-tinker, connect, unplug?
You can pre-tinker, connect, and unplug. The life support systems here essentially are a small-scale version of the life support systems on your ship.
Okay, so
They are not very different.
okay, so Illyria is going to kind of explain. Illyria doesn't really know. Well, she's not really focused on what you know. She's just going to tell you everything she knows. So Illyria will be like, so it's really apparent that everything is very similar to what we have, on the initiative. Pretty much what we should be able to do is rig it to where we can power it up for as long as you need it, and then unplug it immediately, and then the power will die down.
Great. Perfect. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, who is leading this task? What I'm going to do is I am going to reduce the difficulty a little bit, since you're not trying to keep it on for an extended period of time. You literally just kind of want to it's like flicking a light switch on and off, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will reduce the difficulty a little bit because of that, because it's not extended. But who wants to lead this? Who is taking the lead on kind of doing this on off with a life support?
Is this
So I have
would
a
life?
qu-
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go.
I was just going to ask if this is more of like a systems and computers thing, or if this is more like a mechanical needs stuff being put together thing.
It's more of a kind of systems and computer thing. 'Cause you've got power running. Power is now up and running. It's more kind of getting into the system to get those processes going and being able to monitor that a little bit to know when they are where they should be, and then deactivating that back down.
Okay. I mean, I have my focus in computers, so I
Okay.
maybe take lead on this one.
Yeah, Lyra will hand that over, like let you take over should you feel comfortable doing that, because she is not super technologically inclined.
Okay.
Okay, so you are going to be rolling a control plus engineering task. But what I will say is that you can probably use con if you want instead of engineering.
No.
Gonna go with engineering. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is going to be, it's going to be difficulty 3. So it's a little bit easier than it would have been. And Illyria, you can assist if you like. So what that means is you're going to roll 1d20 and you are going to be assisting with, I'd say here this is more going to be reason engineering, because you're not actually like doing anything as such. You're just using your knowledge of how this should work to ensure that things are doing what they should. So Tristan, if you want to go ahead and roll for me, did you want to buy any dice?
I did have a quick question. I keep forgetting. Yeah. What does our determination do again?
So if you have a value that is relevant to what you're doing, you can basically invoke that value to spend a point of determination. And with that, you can introduce something important to the scene, or you can use it to buy yourself a dice that's already rolled 1. So you're effectively buying 2 successes.
Okay.
And then you can go ahead and roll.
I don't think I have any values that really match this at the moment.
I can have a look. Let's see.
I don't think I do. I do have my experimental device, if that's of any use.
You do? What was your experimental device?
It's like a little portable, hollow storyteller kind of thing. So it's just like, it's where I tinker with like my AIs and my hollow programming and stuff like that, to sort of keep it on me at all times.
I don't know if that would necessarily apply here.
No.
But looking at your values, you do have one that says exploration is more important than the discovery.
Yep.
Which is one of them. And it depends on where Tristan is coming from with this idea. Is he more interested in seeing if the idea works than the actual outcome or the actual discovery of what that means? Because if it's the case of he's just trying to see if exploring this is more worthwhile as opposed to I have to get the end goal.
Yeah, he's not very goal oriented here. He's more sort of about this could be interesting. This could yield some interesting information potentially.
Okay. So you can go ahead and mark off 1 point of determination that you've spent. Would you like to introduce something to the story? This can be a truth, so it can be something that lowers the difficulty, or would you like to have a dice that's already rolled a 1?
I'll take a dice that's already rolled a 1, I think.
Okay, so you've already got 2 successes, so you can go ahead and roll your 2d20.
Okay.
So you're only looking for 1 more.
I got 2 more.
You got 2. Okay, so you're at 4 successes. And then Illyria, if you want to roll your assist, it's going to be reason and engineering.
Oh, yes.
Do you have any focuses that apply here? I would say starship construction would apply because you're looking at a system that is similar to that of a starship.
Sweet.
And I have computers on my focuses, so does that mean my 3?
Your 3 is also 2 successes, yeah.
Ooh.
So you've got 3. 3 there, plus the 2 from your auto success, plus Illyria's. That is 6 successes. You needed 3, so you've just backed 3 points of momentum. Nice. You manage it. You flick the life support systems on.
Okay. As soon as the life support systems come on, and I start sort of noticing that the atmosphere here is being regulated, and whatever is causing problems outside is being cleared out, I'm assuming, I'm going to try and move away from the group, and I'm going to try and see if I can still sense what I was sensing outside with my empathic abilities.
Okay, so you turn this on, and you have to wait about a minute for it to actually filter everything out. And as you step away from the group, making your way towards the back of the prefab, let me just have a look here. As you step out at the back, that feeling, that sense of something, that sense of other that you were getting, you can still feel it, but it's not as strong as you were outside. It was almost like a niggle in the back of your mind. It was like there was something else imposing around you. And now here, where if you wish, you could even take off your EV suit helmet for a moment to breathe in cold, fresh air. You can still feel its presence, but it feels almost like it's distanced from you, whatever this thing you're feeling is.
Okay. I'm gonna put the suit back on, head on over. I think we can, if everyone's okay, to turn off life support.
You flick that off. I imagine, Elena, you do that, and slowly you hear the fans wind down, and over the course of the next few minutes, you pick up on your senses that toxic air is making its way back into the room. Tristan and Elena, you are back here with Malco. Malco, your computer is now functioning perfectly normally. And you've kind of got those half sketchy results from when you were running that terraforming simulation. Did you want to try doing that again?
I think so. I think you would want to try just after that blip, just like, okay, one more time.
Okay, don't forget you have got an auto success as well. So if you want to not roll and would rather just succeed, you can do that as well.
Okay.
Up to you.
Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and use it because he's so curious about what this is.
Okay, so you're going to go ahead, use that auto success. And I imagine Tristan and sorry, my mind went really blank for a second there, and I'm really not sure why. Illyria. I had a moment. I was looking at a thing on the sheet on here and totally sorry about that.
So relatable.
And you see Malco punching in this simulation, probably grumbling about having already done this once. And it starts running a simulation on terraforming. When Malco is back with us, we will be able to make the test. But this is essentially an extended task. Are you back with us?
I think so. Something happened with the call. I don't know why it disappeared.
I think
Malcolm was swallowed by the void.
Oh
no! It's just very dark.
It's very dark. I can't see. I don't know if I should just refresh it and maybe that'll. Okay.
Yeah, just refresh it and then. So this is basically an extended task. So sometimes things aren't just as easy as making one test and succeeding or not. Sometimes you kind of have to put work in. So this kind of works like you've got a track. It's like the task almost has hit points. So you make your test to kind of do this, and then if you succeed, you basically get to roll damage against this. So it's called a work track. and you're rolling the same dice that you would do in combat, but you're doing work to the task. And once you've done enough work and you've made enough breakthroughs, you succeed. So that's what we're kind of doing here with the scientific method. So when our CMO is back, we will be able to roll on that extended task. While we do that, let's jump over to you, Ro and Siltek, as you are outside in the darkness. Neither of you can see each other at this point. In fact, you can't even see the phaser, although you know right now it is turning to a slowly glowing red. You can hear its high-pitched whine, however, getting louder and louder. And Siltek and Ro, one of you, or perhaps both of you, are counting up.
Yeah.
You know how long roughly it should take. 40
My
seconds.
hands on the rope, just waiting.
Minute has passed. You're coming along to the 2-minute mark. And Tristan, where are you right now? Are you still like inside at the back of the prefab, or have you kind of come closer to that entrance where Malco is and Illyria are?
Yeah, I'm actually going to start again, just to be doubly sure. I'm going to keep concentrating on whatever it is that I can sense and move my way towards the outside again.
Okay.
Just sort of
So
carefully focusing on this.
as you come to the outside, you're trying to concentrate, and there's this horrible high-pitched whine, and you recognize this. It's the sound of a phaser going into overload. You knew about this plan. You knew that this is the lure they were trying to set. And Siltek and Ro, you feel something. Like a waft of air, almost, but it's not gentle. It's quick, it's sudden. As you hear a screech, and you don't see it, you can't see it. But there's the sound of something impacting. There's a crunch and a whine. A strange electrical sound. And Tristan, in that moment, as you hear this ungodly noise, you feel that presence again. Closer, stronger. It's not reaching out. It's just, you recognize it's there. It's rather than like having someone say, hold your hand, it's like having someone put your hand to theirs, but with no intention of holding on or doing anything. It's just a presence. And you hear the crumple sound of metal, a screech. You hear the phaser begin to go off to finally hit that meltdown, and then it doesn't. There's no detonation. What did the both of you do?
I think I'm immediately gonna on comms go, Lieutenant, did you get it?
And I'm gonna yank that rope as hard as I can.
Okay. Was this rope just where was this rope tied to? Was it tied to the
Just a big, so a big hoop of it, right? So, and with the phaser in the middle, so if anything hit it, I would pull and hopefully it would tighten around a leg or whatever, you know.
Okay,
that was the idea.
Go ahead and just make me this is going to be an opposed test, right? This is going to be basically your strength versus whatever this thing is. Let me just grab stats up. It's not that one. It's here we go. Okay, so go ahead. This is going to be fitness plus security.
Okay.
And I'm going to make the same test. And now I'll be upfront and honest, so you can decide if you want to buy dice. I am going to spend 2 points of threat here.
Absolutely. And as a rancher and a horseback rider back in Montana, I believe that Siltek expects this creature to be stronger than him. So he is going to go ahead and use his determination with horseback riding and spend one of those points to get 2 automatic successes.
Okay, so which of your values are you using here to do the
Oh, I see. It can't be a
Yeah,
focus,
so
it's a value.
Yeah, it's a value. You have to have a value that applies.
You know what? Makes everything competitive. There's no reason why he should be trying to lasso and ride an alien creature he hasn't even seen on board this planet, but you know what? He's going to do it.
Okay. Is this maybe a little bit of kind of proving yourself to the chief petty officer?
Absolutely it is.
I remember you saying in character creation, he's always trying to like be the best. He's always
Yeah.
trying to look the best. Okay,
100%.
so I'm rolling 4d20.
Okay.
And I too have a focus that applies. So let me see. That is going to be 1, 2. That is 3 successes.
Okay. All right. So now I'm rolling 2 dice, right?
You've got 2 successes already. You're rolling 2 dice.
And my target is 15.
Mm-hmm.
15 to 6.
15
So
and a
2
6.
successes.
So that is 4. So you do beat me. The difficulty of the test, I can't remember if I said it, but it was 3. So you've got a point of momentum there.
Awesome.
But you pull, you grab, you feel something lurch away. So as you pull it tight, there's almost a weight, like it's pulling you upwards. And then it's not. Something slams back down to the ground. It's possible that you perhaps haven't caught the entire creature, but you have injured it, dislodged a part of it, etc.
Oh, I see. Okay, like almost like a leg ripped off or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, then I will carefully and slowly drag whatever that is back to where I am.
You drag this back to where you are, and out of the darkness, you start seeing that tether appear. There's a sound, something wet dragging across the floor. As you pull it towards you, you can see there is this fleshy, conical shaped, what you can only describe to be a tentacle. Like an octopus's, but it is the size of your torso. It's huge.
Okay, I think I'd turn to Ro and go, Chief, we may want to get on back inside.
What do you have over there? Did you
And I
capture it?
kind of wave with the tentacle.
I don't think Ro can see from where she's
right.
at.
Right. I'll drag the tentacle over to where you are.
I think that's gonna elicit another exclamation from Ro. She's like, "Prophets, knickers! What is that?"
I believe that's a tentacle, Chief.
Well, I can see that, but why? Why is there a
Can't answer
tentacle?
That, Chief. That answer's above my pay grade, Chief, but I do believe we should get on inside.
Yeah, Tristan's
I'm
going to get on
inclined
comms
to
and be like,
agree.
back inside. Let's, yeah.
Understood.
And Tristan, in that moment, just before Siltek sends out the comm signal that he's got something, you have a feeling in the back of your mind that you can only describe as pain. Before that presence, that imposing presence, is gone again. Or gone at least back to the intensity it was the last time you were stood outside. But now we have our CMO back. Malco, you used your auto success to succeed on this test. So you are going to go ahead and you're going to roll some d6s for me.
Okay.
So you used your science discipline. So you're going to roll 2d6s plus however many, whatever your science discipline is, that many d6s. So if your science is 5, you're going to roll 5d6 plus another 2d6.
Okay. My science is a 4, so plus a 2, that's a total of 6 then, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
So what you can do as well is you can spend momentum if you generate any as well. So we'll get to that. Well, you haven't actually generated any momentum on this. I don't think you've got 3 in the pool though. So you can spend momentum to do additional work, to ignore some resistance. This task does have some resistance. That'll knock some of the work off that you've done, or you can re-roll some challenge dice if you wish. But go ahead and roll however many d6s it is you need to roll. So it's base 2 plus a number of whatever you have. So I believe is your science 5?
Science is 4. Yeah.
4. Okay. So what we're going to be looking for here, obviously, normally for 2d20 we use dice that have got symbols on. So 1s and 2s exactly as they are. So we've got a 2 here, so that's 2 points of damage. 3s and 4s are nothing, they are blank. 5s and 6s are 1 plus an effect. So there are no effects here for this extended task that apply, but there is a 5 and 2 6s. So that is 5 points of work that you're doing to this extended task track. It does have a resistance of 2, however. So that's going to knock it down. Did you want to spend some momentum to get some extra work? Because if you do 5 work in one go, you get a breakthrough, which means you discover something and you get closer to kind of achieving the goal.
Yeah, if I'll spend 1 momentum to.
So you'll be looking at 2. You'd be looking at 2 additional work to get hit 5. So you've got 3 momentum in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
But that will get you your first breakthrough.
Okay. So just to make sure, so spending the 1 momentum would get me to the 5, or would I need to spend 2 momentum?
Spending 2 momentum gets you to the 5.
Okay.
And that gives you your first breakthrough and your first kind of bit of information that you get from doing this.
I feel like it'd be worth it. I think we'll spend the 2.
Okay. So you run the simulation. It is pointing in the direction that you hoped. You put in the information from your scans in the atmosphere, and it shows that the atmosphere composition is dominated by a rare silicate gas. That is what is in the atmosphere that's making it so deadly. This gas has never been recorded naturally. It's the kind of thing that you only have on record because it has been generated in labs or in experiments. And it was not present on the planet during the initial scans. You can compare that with the scans you have from the Vulcans before they even set up the prefab. You now know, looking at this, you are almost certain that terraforming is what you're potentially looking at. This line of thought that Ro first mentioned is the strongest candidate for what's happening here. The difficulty of the task now to do any more work is going to be 3, so it's actually reduced. But this is what you know. There's a rare silicate gas that is making the atmosphere toxic, and terraforming is apparently the right route to be looking down. What kind of work would you like to put in next? No, it doesn't just have to be you, but anybody else who's now in here, as I imagine, Siltek, you're coming through with this huge tentacle the size of your torso.
Just slams it up on the biggest table you can find, just whoomph. I figure we're looking for a creature.
And Malco, you can see this huge tentacle, the size of Siltek's torso, slammed down onto this table.
Oh.
We may have injured the
Okay.
creature slightly.
Maybe more than slightly, yeah.
Yeah, but we got a leg up on it. Get it?
Okay, that
Is there-
actually, that was pretty good.
Is there any like ship parts anywhere near this tentacle? Because I gotta save them all because that's just gross.
I mean, there are some like broken prefab parts near the table, but
Oh yeah,
Nothing-
no,
nothing
I'm
too
grabbing
precious.
those. They need to be away from what's happening on the table.
Oh, what's the matter, Commander? You not a fan of tentacles?
You know, just have your tentacles wherever you want them, but don't. Nope. And she's gonna go back to the closest spot she can get to the power source and just sit there and watch until she's needed.
Christian, upon seeing this tentacle properly in the light, or as much light as you can get in this room, why you had that feeling in the back of your mind, pain, is very apparent. Clearly, this has been ripped from a creature, a being. In that moment, that's what you felt.
I'm going to sort of relay what I've been experiencing since we dropped, since we transported in. This is something that can feel pain. But it's constant. It's a constant presence. It's all around. Don't think we really need to lure it because I think it's pretty much always here.
Oh, that's very comforting.
So this thing didn't get any louder when I attracted whatever this was. You've been feeling this the whole time and it hasn't changed?
It's changed. It changed when we put life support on. It became dimmer as the atmosphere within this research building leveled out. I felt it less. It increased, certainly, as it approached the phaser, but it's still here now.
Doc, are you sensing the darkness? Or are you sensing this creature?
I'm not entirely sure there's a difference between them.
As you are talking, and you've got this tentacle on this table, Illyrio, you're probably the only one really noticing this as Malco is tapping away at calculations, and Siltek and Tristan are, having this conversation. I imagine Ro is perhaps having a look at this tentacle. You notice that there's no blood as such. There is a strange, almost plasma-like substance. It reminds you of the plasma that you see in energy systems that's just leaking out of the exposed end of the wound. And as it touches the metal of the table that Siltek has put it down on, you start to see sparks. And on this table, it's not just a plain table. There's other bits and pieces on here. And as it sparks, it begins to turn into what you can only describe as an electrical fire.
Oh.
Oh no. So everybody's really focused on everything and very preoccupied. And Alira is not great at taking everything she does. She tries to do it pretty. However, electrical fires are not. So you're gonna kind of stand up, and she just slowly inches closer to the table. As she inches closer to the table, you can see her demeanor kind of shrink because she knows she's about to have to speak up, and she's gonna say, "There's a fire on the table."
And all of you can
she can get attention without opening.
and you can you can start to smell this now, as Illyria points it out. The smell of cables burning, as some of the discarded cables that have been used to reroute power and stuff are on this table, and you can see this electrical fire like thing, this plasma that's kind of out there on the table, sparking up as if someone's touching wires together. Does anyone do anything?
I'm looking for the fire extinguisher, or whatever the Starfleet equivalent of one is.
I imagine there is one. It's probably buried in one of the cabinets. You rush and get it, you put it out, and you notice that this tentacle is kind of singed around the edges. You can see that in the places where it's burnt, there's still smoke coming off of it. At least you think it's smoke at first, until somebody takes a tricorder to it, or somebody has a tricorder on, and you realize that this dark smoke, which you can only barely see in the light that you're in, is a silica-based substance.
Oh, I should probably note that Rose has not taken off her environmental suit, by the way.
There's no life support in here any further. That was only on for a few
right,
minutes.
you turned
You're
it
all
off
still in
anyways.
EV
Okay.
suits. But
Okay, good.
you are picking up that this is silica in substance.
Just like the darkness, right?
Kind of like the darkness. It's not quite the same. Doesn't have
Right.
quite the same composition, but it would be like taking silica and attempting to burn it at a high temperature. That's the effect here. So you now know something about, now from that breakthrough, something about the atmosphere itself, which gives you a little bit more to go on. So you now know that the reason the atmosphere is toxic is because of this rare silicate gas. There are a few other questions about this atmosphere left unanswered, though. You still got the geomagnetic anomalies that you've been experiencing that have been messing with sensors, which is a bit of a problem because they're going to prevent you trying to get to that crash site where the other Vulcans are, because obviously part of your mission was to try and recover them if possible.
Right.
And also why it's so dark. But if you like, you can try and use, now you've got this tentacle here, you know a little bit more, you can try and make another test to kind of eat away at that work track for that extended task to get some more information, if somebody wishes to do that.
I think Ro's gonna look to the doctor first, and just sort of kind of blinking like the facial expression equivalent of scratching one's head in thought, and just go, Doc, I need you to clarify something for me. So the gas stuff just came off that. Is our whole problem caused by tentacle alien farts that we're walking around in right now?
And I don't want to say no.
No, why
But
would you want to
given-
say no to that?
Right. But given what just came out of that, maybe.
Great. This is great. This is fine. Nope, totally fine. I could have taken leave. I could have been on Ryza, but no, this is much better. Walking around in tentacle fart aliens stuff, much better. Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I'm gonna start looking into this thing.
Okay, so if you're trying to have a look and see how perhaps this relates in and how some of these other issues are related, I would like, does anyone want to help? I will allow one person to kind of assist in running this process if they like. It's difficulty 3, the test. And you're going to be looking at, here I would say definitely reason and science. Malco, you're gonna lead this as the lead researcher, but would anyone like to assist?
Ro's gonna assist by not being the one to assist. That's not her forte.
So you don't have to assist the same way. You just have to be able to
Okay.
describe how you're assisting, and we can use different attributes and disciplines for that.
Okay.
So does anyone
I can
perhaps
be,
have any focuses in geomagnetics, in anything to do with atmospheres, in anything to do with magnetic fields, quantum mechanics? No?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
If the console's a horse, I got a point for you. Otherwise, I'm not helpful.
Same here. If it's a
You are
ship.
definitely sure it is not a horse.
Okay, good.
I can inspire the doctor. That's about it.
I don't think in this case that perhaps it is inspiring. It is perhaps a Siltech because he's newer and kind of keen and eager. But Malco is a CMO, so I don't know how inspiring that would be. But
That's the best I got.
Tristan, for example, you might be able to assist using holo technology to kind of aid in this simulation.
Yeah, I'll do
That
that.
could kind of work. In which case, I say that you can use. I say this be control engineering if you're kind of trying to simulate using maybe your little device.
Yep.
Some of what the simulation is just running in numbers, but actually running it in the physical in the holo. So Malco, go ahead and make me that test. Would you like to buy any d20s? There is still 1 point of momentum in the pool, or you can save that for if you succeed doing some additional work to the task to kind of essentially more damage against it. Or you can give me threats to buy d20s if you like.
I think. You said the difficulty was 3?
3.
Okay.
You are being assisted by Tristan, though.
True. I think it would be best to just hold off and see where the rolls naturally take us.
Okay, go ahead. Make me that test. You're rolling 2d20 with reason and science. And then Tristan, you're rolling 1d20 to assist. Oh no.
Oh no. I technically got 1 success.
You got 1 success. Let me just double check something here. And that's a 17. Oh no. Let me double check something for you. So, oh, I can't find the bit I would like. You can spend determination to re-roll a dice pool if you wish, Malco. So you can re-roll one of those or both of those. Because it is possible to get 3 successes on 2 dice.
True.
Or I can allow you to succeed at cost. What this means is I let you succeed, but it comes with the cost of a complication either now or down the road.
That is a Q bargain right there. That's what that is.
I will succeed with the cost.
Okay. So at first, the holo simulation fails, which then throws off the work that you're doing. But between the both of you, you manage to get it up and working again. And all of you watch as Tristan begins to bring this up. So go ahead, Malco. You're going to be rolling that same number of challenge dice, however many for your science, discipline, and then 2. And we're looking for 1s, 2s, 5s, and 6s to do any damage to that work track. And you have that bit of momentum that you can spend if you wish to increase it.
Okay.
So go ahead and roll those for me. Okay, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is really good. It's got a resistance of 2, so it's going to go down to 8. However, that is going to give you another breakthrough. So, in the simulations that you have, studying all of these other strange occurrences going on, you can prove that there is a link between the geomagnetic anomalies and the darkness due to the silicone substance in the atmosphere. The silica acts as a kind of catalyst for the fluctuation in the magnetic field, although you're not really sure why, but that is what it's doing. The gas is concentrated around several sites around the planet. As you kind of compare stuff and looking at it, they seem to coincide with these impact craters. The closest of which, obviously, is the one that the Expeditionary Group went to most recently and didn't return from, the one that's about a day's travel from here. You can also see that at the quantum level, when you, Tristan, I imagine you do the hollow display for this, the gas absorbs visible light, and it also affects subspace communications down to the planet in the same way. So this is why you're having such difficulty contacting the ship. As such, it's pretty easy to tell that you could attempt now to map out these shifting magnetic poles and the shifting electromagnetic energy so that actually you can recalibrate your sensors and communications, which would allow you to scan better, to navigate better, and to potentially contact the ship a lot easier.
Like the sounds of
It's
that.
also, which means that your scanners will actually increase in range. You're not gonna, if you do well, you won't have any difficulty scanning because it'll basically be filtering out all of that other stuff that's kind of blocking it. What would you all like to do at this point?
I'm assuming we all know what was just discovered. Like that gets relayed to everyone.
I imagine so, unless Malco, you keep it for yourself.
No, I would relay it. Absolutely.
Okay. I think Ro will probably suggest the first priority be reestablishing communication with the ship.
Agreed.
Okay, so you want to try and recalibrate your communications and your sensors and your navigation. Okay. Who would like to take the lead on this?
So
I assume this is an engineering task.
It will be. The difficulty will drop down, so it'll only be difficulty 2.
okay.
I think Ro's just going to look at Alara intently. Sort of the like nudge, nudge, nudge. Hey, you.
She's still a little bit embarrassed that she like ruined your communication. So she's a little hesitant, but if needed, she'll do it.
Yeah.
I will say that if you succeed and you generate momentum, you can spend it to fix Ro's communicator.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So what kind of test is this?
It's going to be control and engineering. It's going to be difficulty 2. Would you like to buy any extra dice using threat? I don't think you've got any momentum left. Actually, no, you've got one. I think you've got 1 momentum left, so you can buy 1 extra dice.
I'm gonna risk it because I think that I can do it without. Because of
Okay.
the whatchamacallit.
Do you have any focuses that might apply here?
Let's see.
What are your focuses?
Focuses. Starship construction, warp core technology, mechanical engineering, constellations, lip reading and sign language, and disguise.
I will say that you can have mechanical engineering because some of these sensors you do have to physically calibrate.
Okay, sweet. And remind me what it does when I have a focus that helps me.
So if you roll equal to or under your discipline, so that'd be your engineering skill, you get 2 successes instead of 1. It's worth having a look at your talents as well to see if there's anything that works really well here. So you have cautious engineering, obviously. So if you do buy a d20 with momentum, you get to re-roll one of them if you don't like the result. It's the only one that really applies here. So if you do want to spend that momentum to buy a die, it means that if you don't get enough successes, you can re-roll one of them.
Oh, you're really making it tempting to use a momentum. Is everybody okay if I use a momentum?
So, momentum will disappear at the end of scenes anyway, so it doesn't stick around forever. So
I'm gonna go for it.
Okay, you're rolling 3d20.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Here we go.
You got this.
Yeah, all 3 of them were successes.
And that 3 is under your engineering skill, right?
Yes.
So
Nice.
that's 4 successes. So you get 2 points of momentum back. If you'd like to spend a point of that momentum, not only will you recalibrate the sensors so that you are no longer affected by the darkness or the geomagnetic anomalies on your sensors and on your communicators, but you can fix Ro's communicator as well.
Hell yeah.
I would like to do that.
Okay. So, Ro, in recalibrating the communicators, Alira, you managed to figure out what the problem was, and it wasn't anything serious. It's just a cable had shorted, and you can quite easily snip the cable out of the suit and replace that shorted out section with some cable that's been left over from the doing the power supply to this room here and fix it.
Yay.
So
Hey, there we go. Thanks, Commander.
you now have some, it's still kind of spotty, but it's a lot better, it's a lot clearer communication to the ship. What do you wish to report back?
I guess here's a good question. Who's the away team leader? I don't think we ever really established that.
So it
Silta
would
just
either
assumed
be,
it was you.
it would either
Sort of-
be Malco, Illyria, or
Good roll.
Tristan, because you hold the highest ranks here.
Yeah.
In terms of who holds the highest out of all of those, I'd say it's probably Malco as the chief medical officer. You have the most authoritative power, but in essence, either 3 of you could be the lead for this if you wish. And you can choose to change that if that is something that you agree on as, officers.
I'm happy for Malco
Alira's-
to be. Yeah.
It makes sense for this type of mission. I mean, we're looking.
Take it.
This is a rescue mission, so it makes total
Take
sense
it.
that the chief medical officer. Yeah.
Washing my hands of
Okay.
it.
Okay, so
Sure.
Malco, you get a communication through, and it is Vipel. And she beams down. Away team, please respond. Are you receiving our messages?
And I'll respond. Captain, we are now receiving your messages. We feel we have determined a way to get around the interference and should be able to communicate more freely.
This is good news. What are the Vulcans? Have you managed to find anybody, speak to anybody?
We unfortunately have found 2 of them, sadly, dead. The rest of the group we have been unable so far to find.
I see. And what of the atmosphere? Is it just as bad under the surface?
The air is still pretty toxic as on the surface level. We do believe we understand what it is and are continuing to figure out what else may have happened down here.
I see. Do you know the whereabouts of the other Vulcan expedition on the planet?
The last communication we had found was that they had gone to an impact site on the planet about a day away.
As he's saying
Wow.
that, I would transfer up that data that I got from the probe, that last bit of data. I'd send that up to the ship.
Okay. And you, over your Siltech, you hear, thank you for that information. We will get this analysed here to see if there's anything more we can read into it. Well, I believe that the next port of call then is to make your way to that crash site where the Vulcan expedition were last seen. Perhaps there is still hope that they are alive, or information with them that could prove vital to figuring out what is happening here. I would try to beam you back aboard the ship, but I don't know if I'd be able to beam you back down into a reasonable place. I think perhaps going by foot or using any vehicles that they have there may be what is best.
Yes, ma'am.
Update me when you have more information and beam back all of the information that you have, and we will analyze what we can. And she
Understood,
signs off.
Captain.
Is there anything else you wish to do here at the base before you begin the journey to the crash site?
Yeah, do we have one of those flyers they were talking about? They said desert flyers. Are there
Yeah,
any
so
of those
there-
in the base?
There is. There were two here. You imagine one was used for, is probably with the other team. That's how they got to and from. And there was another on the base for kind of short trips or emergencies.
Gotcha.
It's
These are
really
like
built
hovercraft or?
I mean, something kind of along those lines. Like
Gotcha.
Space Buggy, but Star Trek.
Yeah, sure.
It looks like it was comfortably made to seat 4 people, so it's a bit of a squeeze.
Right.
But you do all manage to get on. Is there anything else anyone wanted to do here?
Alira wants to power down everything so that it's not giving off any power signals because have to save the space.
Smart.
And Tristan will put together as much of the samples of the tentacle that we found. So get some of that together and take some with us, but also potentially contact the ship to get some of that taken aboard to be examined.
Okay. You can easily do that. You can have that transported aboard if you wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause that doesn't need to come back. So yeah. We'll send that.
There's no need for that to come back. That happens. You gather up any supplies that you need. There is obviously some supply here, and you make your way to the crash site.
All right.
I did
Who's
want
driving?
to have Ro do something before we take off. So Ro is going to thoroughly inspect the craft, make sure everything is in place and there's nothing that's going to go wonky on the trip. And then I think Ro is just going to assume the pilot position, given that she is like a pilot first and foremost.
And it is lucky that you do, because you managed to make navigating this darkness with using your scanners and sensors to kind of avoid the worst bits of terrain. You make this an easy ride and not one that's too difficult, enough that a few people can probably get some rest on the way. You don't encounter anything in your day's travel.
Okay.
In fact, probably a little bit shorter than a day. I imagine Ro is that kind of pilot. Somehow manages to get you there a little bit quicker than anyone said was possible.
Oh yeah, one of her talents is push the limits.
Yep.
So I think she would definitely try to get as much speed as possible.
So, during this journey, however, let me double check something. Siltech, I believe that you were the winner of the first poll in chat today.
Okay.
So as you are going along as part of this journey, your communicator beeps.
All right. I'll tap it.
Lieutenant, there is a message for you from a Commander Chahal. And the name rings familiar, and then even more familiar. This is a Federation Starfleet Federation commander that your mother knew.
Great.
They
Okay.
were, I imagine, somebody that kind of encouraged you to take up Starfleet back in the day,
Okay.
seeing your reaction to kind of your mother and her giving Cardassian secrets to the Federation. So you
Right.
weren't particularly like close, but they are somebody that was present in your life.
Okay.
In
Do
part
I
of
trust
that.
them?
I would say that you're indifferent. There is not necessarily like a trust, but they are somebody you perhaps respect.
Gotcha.
The last time that you spoke to Commander Chahal was maybe a few months ago, before your posting on this ship. She is, as you know, currently working on a planet called Ashgrave, which is a planet based around celebrating a lot of different religious festivals, a lot of different faiths. It's a big gathering ground for many communities galactically. There is no one person claims to own it. It's one of the more peaceful places. Perhaps you may have visited there at some point.
When I was healing up, focusing
Yeah.
on meditation, that would make sense. Yeah.
And it just says, it's an urgent message. It says something about there being trouble with the voice of purity. Perhaps she's requesting that you and your crew come to see when you are done with whatever is done here. I have informed the captain, but the commander was insistent that you be known as well, and that she passes on her good wishes.
Thank you, Command. I appreciate that. Anything
Over
else?
and out.
Over
No,
and
that's
out.
pretty much it. You very much get the feeling that the message wasn't necessarily intended for you, but the commander was passing on their regards,
Gotcha.
knowing that
Gotcha.
you were
Gotcha.
aboard the ship. You know,
All
the
right.
Voice of Purity is a faction upon that planet that is questionable in their actions. But before you have time to really ponder what this means, Ro, you can let Siltek and the others know that you have arrived at the crash site.
All right, we're here, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the ride. Please make sure your trays are in the upright position. Sorry, this was too short of a flight for refreshments, but enjoy your stay.
You see in front of you a large crater. It's about 1 kilometer in diameter, and an alien craft, big enough to be visible even at the edge, is seemingly crashed here. Its hull is thick, dark substance that you can only just about make out with the lights of this buggy shining on it. And you can see it looks to be fizzing or evaporating, kind of like what happened after the tentacle caught fire with the kind of burned areas, but there appears to be no fire here. Even from this heat, even from this distance, you can feel there is some heat coming off of this ship. Something is happening. The outside of this strange looking craft appears to be dissolving away in front of your eyes. And that is where we will leave it for tonight. And we will return next week.
Right.
To see if
at the Cthulhu spaceship. Yeah.
At the Cthulhu spaceship, yeah. To
Yeah.
see whether or not
No worries.
this crew is brave enough to investigate this strange craft and perhaps what it contains. And maybe we'll find out what's going on with Siltek and that mysterious acquaintance popping up again. So I hope you all enjoyed this. There was a poll in chat done for who gains determination for the next session. This is a pretty important resource, determination. So, you know, it allows for very powerful things. It's like momentum on steroids. Siltek, that is you. Chat has voted for the Cardassian cowboy to receive the determination. So thank you so much, chat.
Next week as well.
Yes. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten about that wild magic surge, I promise.
Cool.
Things have already happened with it. It's just maybe it's not quite as apparent yet. So thank you so much to all of you playing. Let's very quickly go round. You can let us know who you are, where we can find you on the internet. Let's go with you first this time. Max, how are you doing? How was that for you?
That was so much fun. Oh my goodness. But hi, I'm MaximusJ07. You can find me on Twitter and Twitch at the same name. Please come say hi. I talk about tabletop games or just video games in general. I stream usually later in the week based on my work schedule and stuff. But yeah, this was so much fun and I cannot wait for next week. So I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. I can't wait to see what you get up to next week, because I think you're going to be interested in this. Going around to our wonderful Chief Petty Officer. Raven, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, doing great. That was a blast. I loved every second of that. It was amazing.
Where can we find you on the internet?
That's great. So you can find me, of course, at Twitter at The Raven, as well as on Twitch at Just Raven, so RAVVYN. I'll actually be on next tonight at 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern for a Subnautica-inspired tabletop that we're running. It'll be pretty fun. But yeah, it was a blast to be here. Absolutely loved it. Can't wait for next week.
And speaking of people who have been a blast, or somebody who perhaps avoided one this session, how are you doing, Jordan? How was this? Where can we find you on the internet?
Oh yeah, I had so much fun. I'm really excited to see how everybody's characters like connect and like how we grow like socially as we adventure into space with scary tentacles. But I am Jordan, aka Sassy with Sander. You can find me on Twitter at Sassy with Sander. I am one of the people who runs Jam Game Streams. We do video games, we do cosplay, we eat a lot of food and do goofy things. And here recently I've started releasing music covers and mashups on YouTube, so check that out under Sassy with Sander.
Awesome. And speaking of people who are the right kind of sassy, we have Aram with our wonderful Cardassian cowboy.
Yeah.
How is this for you, and where can we find you?
I can't tell you how pleased I am that my horseback riding focus came into play on the first game. My name is Aram Vartian, and you can find everything I do at Twitter at Vartian, or also I run two shows called God's Fall and Rise of the Demigods, both Dungeon and Dragon shows focusing on gods and arisen divinities.
Sounds awesome. And last but not least, we have the wonderful Darby, who I also want to give a huge shout out to for doing the amazing character art that you're seeing right now. So awesome work. And obviously, thank you so much for providing us with such amazing artwork for all of these characters. It's fantastic. How are you doing? And where can we find you on the internet?
I'm doing really good. That was insanely fun. I loved every moment of that. And you can find me on Twitter at Pixel Justice, and everywhere else I am Malibu Darby 87. So like Instagram and places, I don't know. Find my art around the internet.
Awesome. Definitely go check out all of these wonderful people. If you don't know me, hello, I'm Virginia. I am the GM of this wonderful crew, and I'm loving every minute of it. And you can find me at Tabletop Horde over on Twitter and Twitch. I stream some video games on Wednesdays, and every other week I do a follower-voted stream, so you can vote on my Twitter to see what I do. I also make, play, and help publish tabletop RPGs. I actually work for the company that makes Star Trek Adventures, which is a whole load of fun, and I'm very happy that I get to play it on stream. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Don't forget, if you're interested in the adventure that I'm actually running, you can find it in the Strange New Worlds book over on Modiphius's website, along with all the other Star Trek stuff. So like the core rule book, the dice, everything that you need to play. If you're enjoying everything you're seeing here, don't forget to join the Encounter Roleplay community over on Discord. You can check that out. I'm sure a link will go up in chat in a second. It's full of wonderful, awesome people where you can chat about all of the games. A whole bunch of us are on it, so you can go over there and say hi if you're not already here. Don't forget to stay tuned don't leave your seats, because coming up right after this is The Haunting of Seawall Orphanage, the horror show by Jonathan Fry, who is DMing it. It's going to be fantastic. So don't go anywhere after this is finished. Stay here. And also, if you want more RPG awesome content, tomorrow at 3 p.m. EST is our monthly charity meat grinder stream, raising money for Black Girls Code. So if you want to watch some fun RPG action and also put some money or come and support a charity, tomorrow here at 3 p.m. is the best way to go. I think that pretty much finishes us up for tonight. Thank you to everyone in chat for coming along, and thank you, my wonderful players, for making this an awesome first mission session. Stick around for The Haunting of Seawall Orphanage, and from the crew of the USS Initiative, we will see all of you next week. Bye, friends.
See you, friends.
Past the well-known quadrants where space remains unknown, flies USS Initiative, the place that they call home. A brand new expedition, a chance to boldly go. And what they'll find out there's no way that they could know till they fly initiative across the sky and ask the questions of what, when, and why. In what mind it's not their cause, and oh, they survive when the chaos goes. Oh. The space remains unknown. Flies USS Initiative, the place that they call home.